young men speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry, what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
All right. Welcome everybody to Friday and the Pirate live stream. I hope everybody had a wonderful week, and I hope StreamYard is lying to me and YouTube is not. Anyway, we have had quite a week. A lot of stuff came out. I just heard that my video on the myth of World War II was better than a certain other person's video on the myth of World War II, namely Jonathan Peugeot. So that was a nice compliment. So if you haven't seen last week's video on the myth of World War II, it's better than Jonathan Peugeot's, at least according to one person. So there you go. Man, it's just the fighting with Carl Benjamin and James Lindsay. The what else is going on? The sort of revealing, we'll say, of the myth of World War II and its, let's say, shortcomings. The fact that people sort of zeitgeisty are talking about, more, we'll say, more talking about the sorts of stuff that we've been talking about for, however many years now, 5 roughly, is very telling, I think. I have a lot of hope around how this is all going to end up. But it's a long road and things are going to get worse before they get better. So more chaos ahead, folks. I don't think people have recognized yet what's happening. I don't think they're sort of fully on board with the chaos first and before things get better approach, but that's just the way these things go. And then there's a local event that happens mostly weekly here in Columbia, South Carolina, called the Silicon Swamp. There's a YouTube channel for Silicon Swamp. There's a Discord server for Silicon Swamp. If you're a techie, it's a tech-oriented thing. It's mostly for the quote Midlands, South Carolina, but we're sort of expanding it. And it's got some good tech talks. And my buddy who runs it, Fred, nice guy, he did a talk on swarm intelligence. And, I was like, I've been sick, right? I'm still sick for 7 days. I ate some solid food today, so that was good. More importantly, I had bacon. I because I was sick, it was like swarm intelligence that ring in the back of my head. Whatever, I'm gonna go. He's my buddy. I want to support the thing. It's local. It's a way to get out of the house, which is something I don't do normally. Did you know there's an outside to your house? Who knew? So I go there and he starts talking about swarm intelligence, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's an algorithm for, how birds fly. It's called Boids, amusingly enough. There's an algorithm for how ants do their thing, and it's I think it's called ACO. And then there's particle swarm optimization. And I'm like, oh, I remember all this. And then he's talking about the NEAT algorithm. And I'm like, oh, I remember the NEAT algorithm. I remember all of this. But one of the things he said that was very, very interesting in the talk is he said, yeah, the way I got into this was one of my professors in college was one of the sort of progenitors of swarm intelligence. Notice it's called swarm intelligence, right? And he had a theory of intelligence. And I went, oh, that's right. This is why I didn't like Vervaeke's work. This is why I think CogSci is a scam, because we already know this stuff from computers from the 90s. We have definitions of intelligence. They're not great, but we have them. You know who doesn't have them? Any freaking other group. They don't have definitions of intelligence. The computer guys do. Not only that, Vervaeke talked about distributed cognition, and I believe he used the example of ants. We have the algorithm. We have an ant algorithm. Sorry, guys, we have it. We've had it since the 90s. Where you been? Come on over. Right? Late 80s, this stuff started. And CogSci hasn't caught up. I was like, bro, ooh, we're going to be multidisciplinary. We combine psychology, which is not a scientific discipline, by the way, with neuroscience, and we came up with CogSci. I was like, why don't you just combine it with something that's already talked about these issues for years? I mean, the Turing test comes from computers. So this is part of why the meaning crisis is sort of wrapped up in my other channel, which is just my name, where I talk about tech stuff mostly. Well, rant about tech stuff, really, usually with bad sound and bad lighting, is because I've already seen the meaning crisis happen in the computer industry. Like that pattern already played out. So it's very frustrating for me to see this stuff and go, this is why I know Vervaeke's lost. Because actually the computer field is ahead in intelligence. It's way ahead of CogSci, way ahead. And decades, right? 2 decades. And so it's like, oh, okay. Maybe 3 actually. Where, decades ahead, we already know this. We already know the end of it, right? And Fred rightly brought up Wolfram, who wrote Wolfram Alpha, and then came up with this ridiculous cellular automata theory to explain the universe, or explain life or something, which actually doesn't work, right? It just doesn't, right? It's a good description, it's a good explanation of some of the processes, but it's not an origin theory, which is what everyone's looking for. And as I said in the Battle of Two Books, a previous live stream, right? We're still looking for origin theories, right? And so if you think the origin of species actually means the origin of life, you have the battle between science and religion. Bang. The 2 books are fighting. And it's that simple. And it really is that simple. And when you understand it that way, it really helps because everything is clear. You don't have to guess at things anymore. And of course, the big news is the Pope. And you'll notice that almost everybody commenting on the Pope is not a Catholic because the Catholics don't care and they think about things better. And you'll notice the contrast and analysis. If you take something that is not of the United States and you analyze it using the tools that we use in the United States to analyze something that we'll say is unique to the United States, because the United States political system, right down to the voting and the political parties, is unique to the United States. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, never has, right? And you use those tools that you're using to understand that thing, which also don't work, by the way, but different argument. And then you try to impose that on, the election of a pope. I don't. You're a little on the slow side. You shouldn't listen to people like that about anything, really. But it's a good heuristic. Seriously, it's a good heuristic. People who do analyses in that incorrect way are not worth listening to about any other thing. And just move on with your life. It just simplifies because it's hard to find experts. It's hard to find authorities. It's hard to know these things. I'm just giving you one quick and dirty heuristic. It's a really good one. You knock those people off, you're going to have a better time, right? You're going to be able to find people to listen to a lot easier because you'll be able to rule these clowns out. So it's also sort of ironic that people are like, no, it's just like a voting system because they vote. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying. It is just like a voting system. Did you notice that for, I don't know, is it 2 billion, 2.5 billion Catholics? There are 200 people voting for who's in charge? That doesn't resemble anything the United States has anywhere anymore. And we used to, by the way, but we don't anymore. If you don't know what I mean, you shouldn't ever talk about politics because you don't know the political history of the United States. That's already a problem. Probably shouldn't comment on politics if you don't know political history. Sorry, just a reality. Also, the term, and wait, let me back up before I leave that. That should tell you something. The 200 or so people do the voting, and that determines the thing. Suffrage was a mistake. Sorry, mistake, error. Every single suffrage movement was an error. Only landholders should vote in, we'll say, nationwide political elections or local ones. Now, having said all that, another sort of misunderstanding is when you use the term politics in the United States, you're talking about a very narrow, very specific, non-neutral thing. Like either you think politics is good or you think politics is bad. When Europeans use politics, because they're not retarded, they use it correctly. Politics is a fact of the world. It's neither good nor bad. It's just what happens when you get a group of people together. Politics ensues, right? And that's the way they think of it. And so when they're using the word politics, and we're using the word politics, we're not saying the same thing. It's very important to realize. We're using the same words. We're not using the same concepts behind the words. Not the same meaning. That's different. We're not using the same concepts. So I want to get all that out of the way. I am still sick, but I think we'll be fine. We were fine last week. I only had one sort of incident, and that's why I only ate lunch and didn't brave dinner today. That's all right. Come off a long fast. You shouldn't eat a lot anyway. You should wean yourself into your food. So hopefully I have lunch and dinner tomorrow. We're gonna have some nice Italian sausage, and we're gonna be talking about intimacy, meaning, and relation. Hopefully, I'm gonna be able to break this down. I did notes the way I did last time, except first time ever on a live stream. I dipped into the 300 pages of notes that Manuel and I and others contributed to over 3+ years, 3.5 years, to try to get some help with the meaning thing and make sure I'm staying consistent, etc. I've never done that before, so hopefully that improves things. Maybe it'll make them worse. We'll find out how it goes. All right, let's grab our book, our nice little Taleb aphorisms book. Let's open to some like random place in this wonderful book, and we'll try to find. Oh well, the end. I like this. Platonic minds expect life to be like film, with defined terminal endings. Platonic ones expect film to be like life, and, except for a few irreversible conditions such as death, distrust the terminal nature of all human declared endings. Well, let's say, wow, that was the most prescient thing in the book. It's page 104. It's after the end, which I find amusing, and he's got a postface in here too, which I had forgotten about. I did read. I don't know that you read all of a book of aphorisms, but I read the majority of the aphorisms. So, look, we got that out of the way. I am prepared. I've got my Sampal, right? I've got some pure leaf tea here because my energy is a little low, so I figured I'd sugar up. I've got some jelly babies. These are not authentic jelly babies, but they're good enough. Actually, they're quite good. In case I need some more sugar, I've got some tea here. It's a mint tea to settle my stomach. Later, it's peppermint and spearmint, I believe. And of course, I have what everybody should have, which is my Muppet cup. Have you considered? You should consider. It's very important. It's very important. It'll help you to open your mind to the ideas I'm about to introduce you to. And I'll do my monologue, and feel free to engage in the live stream. If I can keep up, I will, and if I can't, I'll read them at the end, and then we'll let people in and see where we go. And one other thing before I begin, because I kind of forgot about this. I did do a live stream earlier today. It was rather nice. Gentleman named Sam had a nice little live stream on his little channel, and they sort of invited me in, and I was able to engage. And I have some good summaries of some of the stuff I talk about here, because that's what they were asking for. And precise speech was the theme for my channel. Yes, precise speech is a big theme on navigating patterns. So if you want to engage with that, I'm going to send the link out here. You can look at that, because I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate that they let me in, and they had good questions. They seemed like a good crew. They weren't cynical at all, which is nice. They weren't combative. They seemed very receptive. So I appreciated that. And so should you, because they seem to understand the theme of today, which is intimacy, meaning, and relationship. So I have these in this order for a reason. And no, Anselman, they're not metagellical babies, although that word did come up. I'm going to ignore Ixnan's comment about the fake jelly babies and revoking my Time Lord status. I have funny stories about that someday. Because we have a type of intimate relationship. However, there's going to be a problem, which is going to arise right now in the etymology. Intimacy is a corruption of the word intimate, which means to suggest indirectly. So I shall have to justify my usage quite a bit, because you see the flattening of the world here for sure. Now that definition comes about in 1580. The mid 1500s is a very interesting time etymologically. Cudworth is there, I believe, like it's a mess. The language becomes a mess in the mid 1550s, and it doesn't recover ever. Hopefully until Jordan Peterson comes around and he and I save the world or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Precision matters. So there's this thing that happens where intimate before this means roughly participatory, right? It's coming from the Latin, and it actually does mean like something you engage with, right? And therefore have some form of relationship with. And then my definition is, and I base my definitions on how words are used by the people, right? Plus, some healthy dose of what is this term supposed to be getting at originally. Now, it just so happens that often lines up in a useful way, right? In a pragmatic way. And I'm a pragmatist. So the way I define it is a quality, a relationship with other things, right? And that relationship has a depth, right? It's about a poetic way of informing, understanding, and relating to the thing, right? It's webs of connection, right? Not lines. And we've seen a web, right? But there's circles, right? And semicircles. It's not entirely regular, but it's mostly regular. And there are anchor lines holding the whole thing together. So there's still grounding, there's still anchoring, there are still straight, discrete lines. Can't get around the linear, discrete things. You need them, right? You just don't need many of them. Most of the connections you need are poetic connections. They are many to many connections. So one thing connects to many other things, and those things have many connections. And some of those connections are swappable, but not all of them. And they're not fully connected, right? Vervaeke talks a lot about the three types of networks, right? And he's like, we need a hybrid, which is a bunch of nonsense because it's a hybrid. So obviously not. Hybrid bad. But it's important to kind of understand this, right? Because that quality of a relationship is what determines the importance of the relationship, right? And importance of relationship, it's part of relevance realization, right? If you're good relevance realization, you understand the importance, the relative importance of your relationships, and therefore you can allocate your time, energy, and attention appropriately because you don't have enough time, energy, and attention to allocate to everything, right? And I think the thing that people don't understand is that in order to have an intimate relationship, a quality relationship, a deep relationship, you need responsibility. And all responsibility requires sacrifice. And caritas, charity, alone will not work. So maybe, not an expert, maybe from my perspective, I think that I see this, you can see that the evangelical movement and the apologetics movement is all about charity only. It's not about sacrifice, and therefore it's not a responsible, it's not a good response. And if it's not a good response, it's not responsible. There's no responsibility in it. Right? I think if you think of it that way, you'll understand why, in a world suffering from an intimacy crisis, where we don't understand quality connections, we don't relate to quality connections, we don't know what quality connections are, we don't have deep quality relationships to things, that people are looking for that intimacy. And what they're getting in return is the megachurch, right? What they're getting in return is a dating profile, right? What they're getting in return is a swipe left, swipe right. These are not full enough containers. They're not rich enough worlds. They're not big enough arenas to give us intimacy. They're not deep enough. They're not quality enough. They might be big this way, right? They might be big going outward, but they're not big going up and down. And that's why you hear the people talk about vertical causality. Oh, yes, that's the key. We've never talked about that before, so let's talk about that. They don't understand what they're talking about. In the same way that if you're talking about, the Pope and how he's elected, and you're using this framework of the United States elections, or even the European governmental elections, you know what you're talking about. You're a crazy person. You're using, we'll say, gardening tools to build a house. You can't use gardening tools to build a house. Like, it's not going to work. You're never going to understand the house if you try to use gardening tools. It's not going to work, right? You're not going to be able to build it. It's the same problem. It's exactly the same problem. In fact, there's 0% difference. And so that's kind of important to know. And I think this caritas only or charity only approach, because that was all that was on offer, even though the need was for intimacy, that's part of what creates what, I'm still a big believer in Verveeke's framework to some extent, because a lot of it's useful, right? I mean, we've co-opted a bunch of it and found a way to fix it, right? The meaning crisis. Well, what is meaning? Meaning is a sense of that which is to be expressed, an act of remembering, right? And then in the 1680s, right, so the mid to late 1600s, it becomes a sense of significance, import. I was like, what? Like, I mean, yeah, but expressing things is more important. Like, the way you have a sense of significance of something is how it's expressed. So now maybe you understand propaganda a bit better, or not propaganda, but the mechanism people are calling propaganda, I should say, right? It's been labeled propaganda. It's much maligned and much misunderstood, and also not optional, not optional, not optional, right? And so The sense of significance comes from the act of remembering and from expressing the thing, right? So that's what gives it import. That's what allows it to be ordered within the hierarchy or your hierarchy or the larger hierarchy or both at the same time because you can inform the world poetically. And when you do that, these fractal layers of the hierarchy collapse. They become not irrelevant, right? But they become easier to deal with. And the thing is, you know, people think words have meaning. Words don't have meaning. Sorry. Meaning is a function of content, definition, plus context. That's why words have multiple definitions, right? So those can't be meanings. I can have 4 meanings for a word. What is that? How do you parse that? You can't, right? Um, and that's the thing. If you want to give a word a meaning, you have to take an action in the world. And that action can't be yapping your mouth. That's not sufficient. Not sufficient. It's a start. It might be required, although I doubt that. Right. And this idea of what is meaning and what is the meaning crisis is this idea that meaning is the way, or meaning co-manifests from our interaction with content plus context. And because, again, even with dictionaries, you see there's multiple definitions, there's that poetic aspect. Well, nearly every word in the dictionary has multiple definitions. And the way you navigate those multiple definitions is with these connections that you make between content and context. The two interact in such a way that by your actions, you manifest the meaning. In other words, and you can hear this in science fiction all over the place, right? Your words have no meaning. In other words, I don't believe what you're saying. Why? Because you won't back it up with action. So somebody can cry about being hurt, and if you don't believe them, their crying has no meaning. It works with emotions. It works with words. It works with everything. Why? Because actions rule the day. Words rule nothing. Words can be used to deceive and are more often used that way. This is why this battle over conversations and who's lying and, is it Dave Smith or Douglas Murray you should listen to are stupid. Of course, you shouldn't listen to Douglas Murray at all. I don't think you should listen to Dave Smith or Joe Rogan either, by the way. I mean, not ever about anything because entertainment and sometimes good stuff pops out. But can you tell the difference? Because no one else seems able to, including them. The reason why you don't listen to Douglas Murray is because he says expertise matters and then claims expertise in things he, by his own definition, doesn't have expertise in. I was like, bro, you've got a problem. You've got a fundamental contradiction in what you're telling people and how you're acting in the world. Well, if you have a contradiction, you're wrong. That's what contradiction means. It doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't have any other use in the world other than to tell you that something's wrong. Now, the thing that's wrong might be a limitation that you can't get around, and fair enough. Maybe that you need to stay away from that. It's a contradiction in your mind. There's your limit. Go do something else. It's fine. Everyone's got limits. It's not a big deal. We all have them. We all have more limits than we have abilities. Why is this interesting? I don't know. Everyone's caught up with this. No idea. Doesn't make any sense to me. Work is the process of co-manifesting meaning. If you're not working, there's no meaning. If you are working and there's no meaning, you're not working. You're doing something else. You're occupying your time. Entertainment, by definition, is not meaningful. It doesn't mean it doesn't have utility in the world. All utility is not meaning, and meaning is not utilitarian. Those are different words because they're talking about different concepts, and that's fine. The only way to co-manifest meaning is through work. Whether you're getting paid for it or not is completely irrelevant. If you feel like your job is meaningful, you don't care if you're not getting paid enough. I see this all the time. I've been that many times. This is not a big deal. And people don't understand that. And I get why, because you're crazy individualist materialists who are struck with objectivism, effectively, or some form of it. And the thing is, this is wrapped up in another concept people don't understand. The sacred is the space that allows you to co manifest meaning in the world. Of course it is. What else could it be? I mean, it's not only that, right? But it has to be that. It has to afford meaning. How does it do that? Through intimacy. How does that work? Responsibility, sacrifice. Isn't that hard? It's not hard. It doesn't have to be hard. You can make it easy. Meaning is fundamentally a process of integration, right? Because your actions are connecting things in the world or disconnecting things in the world. Whatever. You're still changing the world in some way. But, and this I think is where everyone gets lost. Meaning can be shared. You don't need your own. There's no, if you can't co manifest meaning, because I'm sure there are lots of people who can't. I don't know how many. I won't get into numbers. I'm not interested. Doesn't matter. If it's one, we have to deal with it. That's all. You have to have a plan for the fringe other than put them in the center, right? Or other than integrate them equally. Those are reprehensible ways of thinking about it. But you have to have a plan that isn't one of those two types of plans. Well, you share your meaning with them. And the thing is, I think meaning is more powerful when it's shared. If you can share the thing that's meaning, that generates meaning for you with somebody else, you both win. There are no losers in the meaning game. It's a plus plus. The other thing is, without contrast and discernment, right? One's ability to see, the other one is, we'll say, willingness to see, right? Ability to see is contrast, discernment is willingness to see. There is no meaning. You have to have contrast and discernment, right? Because the parts cannot be found in relation to one another. The downside to that is that if you can't find the parts, even if they're connected, you can't participate in the meaning because you can't see it. It's not available to you to be engaged with in that way. The parts cannot be found to be related to one another. You might know about them in the abstract, but if you can't see them, if you can't interact with them, there's no co-manifestation of meaning. It's not there. Sorry, bro. Your meaning meter is empty. Because relation is involved in all this, and because you're the relator, the meaning isn't available, even if it's shared meaning, right? Again, it's shared from somebody else. If you can't see it, you got to be able to see it. And fundamentally, all these conversations about identity is a struggle with meaning. If you don't know where you stand, how are you going to co-manifest meaning? If you're just grabbing random parts and connecting them together, I mean, that's better than nothing, maybe. I mean, if you're doing nothing, at least you know you have a problem. If you're not standing anywhere and just putting things together, you're wasting a lot of time, energy, and attention and blowing a lot of your life. And you're not co-manifesting meaning. And eventually it's going to catch up to you, bro. Eventually it's going to catch up to you. And the thing is, total freedom means you can never find meaning or have meaning or co-manifest meaning. That's what total freedom means. Because there's no constraints. There's no way to co-manifest the meaning. There's no way to see it. Everything's equal. Everything's just kind of whoop. That's what the myth of World War II did. Although the myth of World War II is just sort of like the end conclusion of what caused the flattening of the world, right? But yeah, I mean, once it's flat, you get your freedom. Unfortunately, you trade your meaning away for it. And the reason why you trade your meaning away is because you can't connect things. There's no authority for you to do so. It doesn't come down upon you. Things will still emerge and you'll still be able to do something with what emerges, or is what emerges doing something with you? The best way, in my opinion, to think about meaning is that it is a second order effect of living virtuously. You aim for virtue and you get meaning for free. You don't have to think about it. Aiming for virtue is going to require quality relationships, though, intimacy, by my definition. The thing is, if you're steered away from meaning, even just in your speech, then you'll be forced to pursue lesser things like money and vanity. That's part of the problem. You still have to replace your need for meaning with something. Something has to fill that hole. The world is full of non negotiables, it's full of inevitables, it's full of certain things that have to be dealt with. We have methods for doing that. We have a distributed cognition through time that's already told us this is how this works. This is how this works over more than a generation, which is something you will never know because you're only going to last one generation, right? Like when you die, that you can't know how your stuff turns out. But we have these traditions that can tell you how this stuff plays out over very long time spans. My personal suggestion is go for something 2,000 years or older. Otherwise, who knows? It might be wrong. So once you know how the world works and how to manipulate it, there cannot be any meaning in your participation because it's been flattened to a mere procedure. This is why the knowledge engine model is helpful because you kind of understand the difference between procedures and participations, right? They're on different sides, right? The relationship no longer has quality, it's flat. In other words, pointing to meaning destroys it, analyzing meaning destroys it, thinking about meaning destroys it. Also, while you're busy thinking about meaning and analyzing meaning and pointing to meaning, you're not co-manifesting meaning because you can't do that with words because words aren't participation fundamentally. Sorry. I have a video on that, right? There's a difference, we'll say, between doing things in the world and not doing things in the world, right? And you have to know how to do things in the world. You have to be aware of the importance of doing things in the world and why doing things in the world is significant. You have to have discernment about what you're doing in the world because meaning relies on it. Meaning's kind of counting on you to do that. Meaning's counting on you to have that level of engagement. And when you don't have that, the meaning's not there. Right? You need to have these senses of participation, these senses of what's a hallucination. What am I embodying? Am I being responsible? What is the difference between discernment, judgment, and action? 3 great videos. Was it 2 years ago now? Something like that. You need a telos. These are all videos in the live streams. I have videos on all of this in the live streams. Forget about the recorded stuff. My goodness. And we'll be getting all the monologues out soon as individual videos to make it easier when I go on vacation. Meaning is not the solution to the problem of combinatorial explosion. It is the avoidance of this problem. Combinatorial explosion is caused by trying to break down relationships for more control over them. What causes the meaning crisis? Creating the problem of combinatorial explosion. Oops, the sciencey people. That's what causes it. Not saying we have to do without science, although, hey, we built a pretty good world without it. So, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm just saying. Just throwing that out there. Pain without meaning is suffering, and pain with meaning is wisdom. And those are some notes, not all the notes, but quite a few notes about meaning from the notes file. And now we need to sort of loop back. I know, right? I'm using things before I define them. Relation. That might be deliberate, by the way. Something to ponder. How things are connected. How persons are connected. The action of telling a story. Interesting definitions for relation. From the Latin relatio, bringing back or restoring, a report, proposition, in other words, connection, right? Correspondence, act of telling. Aha. So you're giving a report through propositions about the correspondence, the connection between things. This is what happened in the battle. This is what the commander told me to tell you about how the battle was going. This is how many people are dead from the earthquake. These are all ways of creating a relationship, a relation between two things. A relation is a poetic type of connection. A connection is a flat type of relationship. The less flat or more enchanted, if you will, the relationship, the more poetic it is. It's only later that relation is used to talk about marriage. So you're related by marriage. Fair enough. It's a type of connection. So what is a relation? How do you connect things in the world? Let's imagine there's more than one way to connect any two things, except in math, right? In science, the picture's a bit better, but not better enough, right? These are flat maps of the world that have discrete, linear ways of connection. Some of them will object and say, oh, we understand multivariate equation. No, you don't. No, you don't. And there's no quality. Adding variables does not add quality. Adding dimensionality to your variables or using your variables to express dimensions in math does not add quality. It's a useful approximation for certain flat things, but it doesn't work, right? It doesn't add it. And the interesting thing is that to sort of resolve the flat nature of the connectedness that the sciencey folks use, they often come back around to use the term reciprocal, my least favorite word in the world. It's a mathematical term, by the way. It's talking about a symmetry, and the world is not symmetrical. It is, in fact, very, very asymmetrical. It's sort of, I don't know, what do I want to say? Hierarchical, where the top is smaller than the bottom. And the bottom, the lower you go, the badness is there. And the top, sort of the pinnacle, the highest thing, the thing that you want to look up to or orient yourself in relation to, right, is small. You have to be careful about it. It takes huge amounts of time, energy, attention. You want to fall down the well to the bottom? Piece of cake, baby. Doesn't matter where you go. Just look down in any old direction. You're going to get to the same place every time. Not so when you look up. It's not symmetrical. It's not symmetrical. It's not reciprocal in the mathematical fashion at all. The Sam Harrises of the world would have you think that it is. You just move away from badness, which they never define, by the way, which is a little weird, and you'll be good. It's like, no, almost certainly not. You didn't define badness, and even if you did, moving away from it might lead to more badness. There's no reason to think otherwise, and there's every reason in the world to know that that is the case. What they mean by reciprocal, usually, is they're trying to use it to get around the fact that they don't have quality relatio, right? They don't have relationships as such between things. They only have connectedness between things. That's it. They're the flat, linear, discrete version and not the richer, fuller version where things come into being as the result of their connectedness. And so a reciprocal is often used to say, well, of course, I'm connected to this thing. Yeah, like you're trapped in a spider's web. I agree. There's the great web of life. This is a very pagan concept, by the way. It's all over every form of occultism. Every single form of occultism. The web is there, right? The flat version is the wheel, like the wheel of time. Yeah, that's for the low IQ people, the ones who write way too many books poorly. But imagine, if you will, if one thing could be connected to many things in an indescribable or non-propositional way, and that it was never ending or continuous. You couldn't identify or create a break in it. That's the poetic way of informing the world, folks. Now, this doesn't supplant the linear, discrete, flat maps, right? Because it's not like you can't use linear, discrete, flat maps to get a great approximation of small parts of the world that are highly accurate and highly precise, right? But when you do that, those linear, discrete, flat maps blind you to all the other connections and types of connections and depths of connections that are in the world and in the thing you're talking about. That's what it does. It just blinds you to all this other stuff. Hence, as Jonathan Michaud says, the world is attention. If your attention is on the dissected, smallest part of the thing, then your attention is off of all of the other things. Now, you can't have your attention on all of the things with equal quality. As Jordan Peterson points out, your eye actually works with, you see less well out here, you see more well here, and you see excellent here, and then you see perfectly here or something, or close to perfectly, right? Yes, that is correct. The reason why we don't see that is A, our eyes are in our head, and we can't see our eyes from the outside. And we also don't have extra eyes that are differentiated from our other eyes to tell us that these eyes are not seeing these things that they're not seeing. Right? This is why self-transcendence is a stupid idea. Of course, there cannot be anything called self-transcendence. It doesn't make any sense. It will never make any sense. It cannot be made any sense of, which is why you project into it whatever you want and become a guru and have hundreds of followers, and then you all literally drink the Kool-Aid. Please don't do that. The world needs you to be better. The world is attention. You're filtering out 99.8% of everything all the time. Don't filter out the thing at the top and filter out everything else that interferes with that. That's the basic message here. So let's sort of summarize this. Intimacy, meaning, and relation. Intimacy is about relation. Meaning is about relation. Relation can have, let's say, two types or two aspects: the flat, linear, discrete type, and the poetic, enchanted type. You need those. You need both of them. You cannot do without both of them. Eyes up and eyes down, as Paul van der Klee used to talk about. I don't know what he's talking about lately. It's a lot of work. You have to be responsible for when to look up and when to look down. So you don't look down so you don't fall in a hole. You have to look up because you have to orient towards the highest thing. It's not that hard. That's the model. That's it. This is simple triangle. So relation allows for intimacy, the quality connection, right? And allows for meaning. Meaning is that co-manifesting those relations in the world. But if you don't have the poetic way of informing the world, the relations you have will be material. They'll be flat. They'll be objective. They'll be based in objects. They'll be individualistic. You will have a high degree of control over them, or so you think, or at least for a little while, right? But they won't fill you up. They won't allow you to move up and down, which means you can move down very easily, but you can't move up quite so easily. And once you start moving down, because you will, you're on the slope, and you ain't coming back because you ain't got tools. Don't do that. The world needs you to be better. That's what the world needs from you. That's it. Just be better. Right. Cooperate with the world. Don't fall into the intimacy crisis, which causes the meaning crisis. Don't do that. There's no reason. We can all do things that inform the world poetically and make us better, which makes the world better, because it turns out that our relation to the world is what makes it better or worse. It's not that hard. And you can look over there and say, well, that person's not doing a thing that makes that relation, their relation to the world better. Okay, bro, but you're not them and you can't control them. So that means you'll have to be twice as good as you are now. That's your only recourse. Sorry. But that's also works. So why is the problem? I don't get it. I don't understand. Explain it to me like I'm 4, bro. The thing that links you to the world, links the world to you, allows the co-manifestation of meaning, and creates the quality connections is the relationship. It's the relation. It's how you are connected to the things around you, not just the things around you. Let's use my 3 frames, another wonderful video on navigating patterns, right? You to yourself, you to others, and you to nature. If you want to add a 4th frame, you can. I'm not going to add that 4th frame. Not interested. The people that already have that 4th frame don't need me to tell them. Once you understand that hierarchical relationship that you have with the world, you can begin to figure out where you are in the hierarchy. Maybe you've reached your limit. James Lindsay reached his limit a long time ago. His limit's run out. His ability to understand the world likely is over. He cannot have a richer, deeper understanding of the world. I mean, it's possible, but I think he's done. Like, I think he was done a year ago, but whatever. And that comes out as frustration, right? I'm trying to understand the world. And I said this on the live stream, right? It's an interesting coincidence, right? If your system identifies 2 groups and then says, here's what's wrong with one of the groups, I'll call it something random, nothing to do with anything nowadays at all, wokeness, and you define wokeness, and then it appears over here. Let me explain. This is really easy. Your system was wrong all along. It was never correct, period. Sorry. What you've identified is called a universal. Now, maybe it manifests differently on each side. Shocking. That doesn't mean your groups are right. It means you're an idiot. That's what it means. You want a heuristic? There's a heuristic, right? Curtis Yarvin never liked his stuff. All credit. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Your systems were wrong. Blue Church was wrong. This is all wrong, wrong, wrong. People know it's wrong and they're still using it. Don't listen to those people. They know they're using something wrong. Mimicry of momentum, baby. I was going to record momentum today. I was not feeling well all day. No videos recorded today. But that is the end of my monologue. All done. I will go back and read any comments that I missed. I am sure I missed a few. I did not read the yar from Ixnon. Thank you, sir. I am not revoking my Time Lord status, and nor do you have the authority to do so. Anselman, no, not metagelical babies. No, they were not metagelical babies. They were quite nice. Actually, you can watch for yourself. The beginning is boring. It doesn't get structured until I show up. Weird. Intimus and intimare. Yeah, look, Latin is long and deep, and I failed Latin 2 years. Ixnon, the evangelicals try to put all the sacrifice onto the empty cross. Yeah, exactly. They don't do it themselves, right? You'll notice, again, I mentioned this before, right? Like there's a nice clean cross. Like when did that happen? Never. That's a fantasy. The nice clean cross is a fantasy, guys. There was never one. That never occurred. Sorry. Anselman, it's quite alarming when your combinations explode. Yeah, well, it would be. It would be. All right. I will open things up. Of course, I'm woefully unprepared because my brain is a little slow. If you would like to ask questions about what I've outlined, or you have other, say, related questions, maybe to previous live stream or one of the concepts, try to keep it sort of kind of within the realm of the channel. I don't want to, this isn't a just chatting stream. Nathaniel, great monologue, took notes. Oh, well, thank you, Nathaniel. I appreciate that. I'm working on too many things. I'm gonna buckle down and get the AI on the videos at some point, and then we'll all have notes. And they'll probably be decent notes because I can curate them all. But look, if you'd like to join, I'd love to have you join in and help me sustain myself through the live stream. I'm a little surprised I kept it under an hour. That's actually rather shocking. So feel free to jump in. I'm going to pin the link on Navigating Patterns channel, which is the only place that I can actually pin the link. So if you're not watching a Navigating Patterns, you can jump in there and you can jump in here if you're willing to be on camera, on video, and discuss this stuff. I did not get any videos done, which is why we didn't see one yesterday. Just because, like I said, 7 days of not happy illness. Despite doing like wiping myself out twice yesterday, raking, I now have what are going to become dirt piles. Yeah, the electric company came by and like chopped down a bunch of trees and then ground them all up without telling me. Also ground up things they shouldn't have, which would have been nice. A little heads up, but it's not how it works down here. So fair enough. I'm not mad. Turned out to be a good thing, you know. Ultimately, it was good because that stuff needed to be cleaned up. And now it is, in fact, cleaned up. So the yard's getting a little nicer. I am going on vacation. So live stream next week and then 3 Fridays, no streams. Unless I happen to stream. But I don't think so because I'll be on the road. I will probably take all my equipment. Maybe I won't. Maybe if I stream, I'll stream from the camera on the laptop, which is actually might even be as good as the camera that I'm using. Same company. I don't know what the specs are on the laptop camera. I think this one I have a lot more control over, but whatever. Someday I'll buy a real camera if I ever stop being poor. That doesn't seem to be on the horizon. We'll see. When you sell the 10,000 copies of my book, maybe. Oh, geez. All right. Well, I guess if that's what we got, how you doing, Castle? Good to see you, sir.
Doing good, doing good. Also thinking about eventually buying some decent peripheral equipment when I'm not poor. Um, been thinking about that recently. I was actually shopping for microphones, not actually addressing the fact that my camera doesn't go higher than 720. Um,
Oh, that's brutal,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. I'll probably save that for never. But yeah, I enjoyed the monologue. It was very good. I took a note, and I actually listened to all of it. So it was definitely good. It was everything that I hoped it would be.
And more. You have to say and more.
You know,
Ow!
well,
Through
we'll
the
see.
heart. Okay, fair.
We're in the and more section right now. It's still to be determined. Jury's still out. No, but it was very good. I was glad. I like the way that you ordered everything. I generally like the live streams that have like multiple topics that are interconnected. So I saw the title of this one earlier today when you put the thumbnail out, and I was like, oh, I'll drop in on this one.
Oh, good.
So very pleasant. What do we have here?
Yeah. Let me read this real quick. Nathaniel, you made a better case for not doing magic than any Christian I've met. Well, thank you. If you could rule the world, what a lonely, meaningless place. Yeah, well. Nathaniel, I just want to warn you, I don't particularly care for the word Christian. It's only useful pre-Reformation. After that, that term becomes a big issue. How about Anglo-Cathodox? I like that term better.
I'll never acquiesce to it, but I also want to be a good guest.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Because it's not invalid because there's a bunch of Protestants that are really like they're already there. They'd just be a better people if they went to the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church, to be fair. They'd just understand more of the world, and they'd have structures that could help them do more of the good work they do better. And they don't know that, and fair enough. Like, who can with all the commentary on the Pope that by
Oh gosh.
midwits or no, I'm sorry, they're not mid. I apologize, midwits, nitwits. They're way below midwits. It's listening to these people. Just I feel like I'm losing IQ point. Apparently, I was told reliably by somebody that people were expecting the Pope to speak in English in the Vatican to the Italians. I was just like, no one's that dumb. And apparently people are actually that dumb. And I'm like, well, at least we can identify the dumb people sort of easily.
It's exhausting. I mean, they talk so much. And I just, like, I get, the tough thing too is you get this oversampling because of, you just have like YouTube Catholics, right? And it's like they have to put out content, There's a few that, I mean, the thing is, the people, and I've really been looking for a while, the people that get the most results were like, hey, we got a new one. And then they went back to work. And like, it was actually, it was like as simple as a quick little thing, or like in the week coming up to it, like when the conclave was joining, it was like, okay, everybody join for a novena. And then you do that until they elect the new guy. And then you like kind of celebrate the day of, and then like we go back to doing what we were doing. And yeah, I mean, like the people that I see that are expanding, getting a bunch of new members, getting people into the priesthood, building monasteries, like doing that type of stuff, like that's how they handled it. The people that aren't getting results like that are the ones that are spending all their other time doing the other stuff.
We got to grab this comment, but I've got a story after that. It's gonna be pretty funny. Nathaniel, can I ask Castle? I mean, you can ask. I don't know if you can answer. Where he goes to church. I've been watching the book club every weekend. Oh, great! I hope you're enjoying it. But I don't know if he said. I think he's actually mentioned it a couple of times offhand or whatever. But I might be thinking of after book club, where we usually spend as long or longer than the book club talking amongst ourselves and leaving you all out of it.
Yeah, I think we went on for like another 3 or 4 hours the last time.
Yeah.
But yeah. But no, yeah, I'm in the eastern side of Pennsylvania, in the Catholic Diocese of Allentown, and good place. They got a lot of really cool stuff here. And a lot of stuff I haven't seen yet, which I'm really looking forward to checking out. Two of the big ones in a week or two here, so that'll be exciting.
Cool.
But they just got all those big shrines. I love it.
So it's I'm living here in Allentown. I know you don't live in Allentown, but yeah. Also,
but adjacent, right?
Allentown adjacent. Yeah, it's a good song. I've actually always wanted to go to Allentown and Bethlehem and all that nonsense.
It's nice. Yeah, it's all within like 20 minutes of me.
We're still planning. I might alter our leaving time from South Dakota, and we'll see. Ixnay. I will say Protestantism is fringe Christianity. I think that I understand what you're getting at with that, Ixnay, and I'm still not on board, but I agree with the sentiment in that they don't, for me, they don't make it, right? They're just missing too many tools. Like at a certain point, you're missing too many commonalities. First of all, you don't have Mary, you don't have divine feminine, you're kind of, the rest is worthless. Like you're missing more than half the picture effectively. And you wonder where the intimacy crisis comes from. Yeah, Protestantism. Sorry, guys. I don't know how else to say. It's why Protestantism flattens the world and makes it a book and all these weird things. Like that definitely happened. Objectifies everything by making it a book, right? So yeah, it's hard. The problem is, I think the Anglo-Catholic should give the damn Protestants the word Christianity and not dignify the Protestant position by also using the term. Sorry. Also, their definitions are different, right? Like Catholics and Orthodox can define what it means to follow Christ, and the Protestants have 17,000 versions of what that means. And they'll tell you, this isn't a secret. They'll tell you that. I mean, they'll just, if you ask them, what does it mean to follow Christ? Each denomination has something different. Nathaniel, oh, cool. I'm from the area. My daughter goes to school in Allentown. Oh, cool.
Oh, very nice.
Far away. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I guess he's a denizen of your area.
Yeah, there you go. Solid.
Yeah, area. And I might stop in. We'll see. I gotta figure all that out. Maybe that's worth doing. I don't know. I could do all the math on the trip because we don't have to be. We're gonna be on the Cape on Friday at some point. And then the problem with Cape Cod is getting to Cape Cod on a weekend after Memorial Day.
Oh yeah,
is an ordeal. I don't know how much of an ordeal anymore because I skirted around it by going Friday morning before anybody's on the road.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But I don't know if I can get away with that. Now, I could, in theory, maybe sort of get around that, but that just gets into, well, how late do you want to get to the Cape? And you only have a week there, and whatever. I love my little timeshare. Just probably the best thing I ever bought, and glad I was able to keep it. Nice. Glad I still have it. Wish it was worth any money because I actually probably would sell it just because cash would be nice right now. But yeah, totally worth it to force myself into vacations because I was always the type of person that would not take a vacation. Also, a lot of my friends used it when I couldn't. I was like,
that's cool.
Yeah, go use the Cape. It's going to be empty. And they were like, what? And I'm like, yeah, just go. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, just show up. And they're like, what does it cost? I'm like, it doesn't cost anything. I've already paid for it. Just go and enjoy yourself. And they're like, what? I'm like, cool. This is an intimate relationship with my good friends.
Yeah. That's something I like, people counting things up, because I can understand when it's, somebody invites you to something and it's like, okay, I don't want to use too much of your stuff and everything, but there is a certain, and I think a lot of times people get into that mode because somebody did kind of nickel and dime them on hospitality. And it's just like, it's such an unfortunate thing. Like I saw this a few months ago around Halloween, actually. They had this whole little thing, and it was like, there were people going and they were like, oh, we'll just have all the local kids go and trick or treat at like the local kind of like park community center type of thing where they have like the soccer fields and all that stuff. So a bunch of people So they had a bunch of people with little tents and everything, and you see people where it's like you got this big bucket of candy, and time is running out, right? Like you've got maybe an hour or two left, and there's not that many people, and they're like, okay, pick one. And it's just like, what do you mean pick one? Just start dumping them in the bags. Like, why are you wasting, And then they wind up going back home with like a giant crate full of candy. It's just like, you let the parents decide the dietary stuff, but it's like, why are you nickel and diming this when there's a giant bucket and you got 2 hours left? Like, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's lots of ways in which we kind of inappropriately partition our interaction with strangers.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is just the loss of politeness. And so, well, this segues nicely into what I was going to say. So Sarah was like, I've been reading this, dust up between the Pope and JD Vance. And she said, I'm just going to look up the tweet. And so she reads JD Vance's tweet and she goes, I agree with the Pope. Why is like, what's the dust up? I don't understand. And then I had read it really quickly and I'm like, whatever, who cares? This is so stupid and unimportant. It's just JD Vance's misunderstanding of love. That's all it is. Or he just misused a word. Like he just flat out put the wrong word in, which happens all the time. People do it constantly. Not a big deal. Calm down. I'm not saying you shouldn't hold people's feet to the fire about them being precise in their speech. You should. I do. I hope people do it to me. But that's the problem. The problem is it looks like he just made a mistake, right? Love is universal. It's not ordered. What he should have said was duty. The problem with using the word duty is that no one uses it post myth of World War II. Like it's not a thing that we understand anymore because it's a concept that's not in the lexicon. And that's what part of the mission of navigating patterns, put the concepts back in the lexicon so that people can use them to re-enchant the world, roughly speaking. Maybe that should have my answer today on the live stream. Boy, that's good. Somebody write that down for me. Right. You gotta put these words back in, back in there. And I think that's sort of the key. Ixnon, you're not wrong about the Protestants. Thank you, sir. I know you and I agree more than we disagree on that. If the Anglo-Catholics adopt your label, my statement won't work. Right, exactly. Well, I'm hoping they adopt the label. I really want the bright, clear line to be drawn between, we'll say, people with at least most of the tools, or we'll say the most important single tool, and people who don't have those tools. Because the real problem, again, I kind of went over this, right? Like, if the tools you have for understanding an election are the ones that you use for understanding the change of government in the United States, then applying those tools to a papal conclave means you cannot ever understand what's happening. Ever, under any circumstance. It will not work. Your ability to engage will be negative all the percentage. And it's never going to happen. And Ixnon, what is love? Ixnon, don't hurt me. That's where was I going to go, Cal? Where was I going to go?
No. Yeah, no, I saw it. Yeah, there he is. You beat him to it.
There we go. Well, he mistyped, right? JD, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
I have no idea what he even said.
Who said?
JD Vance. Like, I didn't even know that there was an interaction, actually.
Yeah, the Pope corrected him on a tweet, and he basically, what JD said was, you love your family first, you love your community second, you love your state third, that sort of nonsense. It was like, no, love is universal, and it's a grace from God or something, right? What you mean is you order your duties. It has nothing to do with love. You order your duties. You don't order love. That's all. I mean, his point was correct. He's used the wrong word.
Yeah, and it's tough because I think he is actually pulling from something very old, probably written in Latin, that was called the Order of Love, but that it implied like responsibility, right? And like that was,
Right.
and I think it was something like the foreigner was like number 5 or number 6, and it isn't, but the entire idea was
Yeah.
subordination, and that was it.
Right.
It was just like it was
Yes.
the subordination of responsibility would be a better translation
Mhm.
into English.
Exactly. Our Latin translation is terrible. The only thing worse is our Greek translation. The only thing worse in our Greek translation is our freaking Hebrew translation. It's like,
yeah, no,
why are
it's
you
rough.
bothering to do this project at all? You can't. It's not a possible thing. It's too nuanced, and you're just never going to be smart enough, and it's not relevant. You know, I was telling people like these people. I was talking about LARPing. I could talk about everything in that stupid live stream. It was great.
Yeah,
it was a great live stream. It was awesome. And I could talk about everything I wanted to. Kayfabe, everything. I would do everything. Nice. Yeah. No, it was well worth the watch. I was like, yeah, these people who use kayfabe don't, they don't get it, and they just don't understand reality, and they need to go grow a bean, make a hay bale, cut a tree down, and like that'll fix their then they don't have to talk about it. You can just engage sort of directly. Oh geez, we have a request. Nathaniel, geez, Nathaniel, this is awesome. Keep this coming. I like this. Could you go into more detail into the idea of the computer world, which is flat, being ahead of cog sci, like why that happened? Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy. Like, cog. How do I want to do this? No, I'll go with computers first. What is the point and purpose of computers? To emulate human thought. I think explicitly all the way through the history. That was always the goal, right? At some people go all the way back, so you can go all the way back to the Jacquard loom, and you could say like that was the first computer, right? And that's not incorrect, because the principles of a Jacquard loom, which in case you don't know, you probably don't know. Sorry. The principle of Jacquard loom is you have a card, and that controls the weave on the loom. And this goes way back, right? This is a French guy, so we don't know how he came up with something good, because maybe that's the one good thing that ever came out of France, other than the people that went to Canada and spawned the greatest generation of humans that could exist, the French Canadians. But maybe that's the only other, like maybe that's the only good invention or thought that came out of France, was the Jacquard loom. But there's these cards, and it determines which threads and how they're woven, right? And so you put the cards, you actually, if I remember correctly, you stitch the cards together and then you feed that into the loom, and that runs the mechanical pattern. And this is all before the water powered stuff, or at least before the Industrial Revolution style water powered stuff. And so there's a bunch of concepts in that that go into computers, like of course now my brain is blanking because illness, tired, whatever. Multiplexing, there it is. I knew it was there. Multiplexing happens in a Jacquard loom, but later on, like with Babbage and Alan Turing in particular, right? And I can't remember the other guy's name. The von Neumann. There it is. Man, I must be having a bad day. I can't remember the good stuff. The stuff I know best. Oh well. These guys are explicitly coming up with definitions of intelligence. Like the Turing test is a test of intelligence. Why do you need a test for intelligence? It's not a test of intelligence for humans. It's a test of intelligence for computers. I didn't know a Twitter argument about this recently, and the guy got blown out of the water. I'm like, if you're going to argue with somebody about computers and you do it with me, you'll be wrong. Sorry. I'm just stating how reality is unfolded in the world already, irrespective of your existence. This is something I know extremely well, in spite of my memory lapses. More drugs. I need more drugs for the memory. Maybe I just need to not be sick. I don't know. Or maybe I just need food, which, eventually I will have. I'll have more food tomorrow. So So the endeavor of computers is to emulate aspects of human intelligence, and that's going all the way back to the 20s, right? And it's maybe further. Depends where you want to draw these lines. They're kind of silly lines at some point. And it's being informed by, we'll say, early psychology, which is more correct than anything that came later, right? All the psychology, we'll say, after Freud and Jung, it starts to get corrupted fairly quickly. There are a few really good psychologists who make real good use of psychology. I want to say Pavlov advances psychology and Skinner, and then he does some really bad work. So you got to be careful with B.F. Skinner. And I don't think there's anyone. Maybe Zimbardo. I don't know. I'm up in the air about Zimbardo. Sometimes I like him. Sometimes I think he destroyed the world. It sort of depends. It's one of those things. I learned a bunch of psychology from Zimbardo. He did a PBS thing back in the day that I watched. So Philip Zimbardo's like, I like him. I like him a lot. He's a good presenter. He did the Philadelphia Prison Experiment. Is it the Philadelphia Prison Experiment? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. He did the famous prison experiment, which wasn't an experiment. It wasn't a psychological experiment, but whatever. He drew some psychological conclusions from that incident, we'll say. And they were mostly correct. So computers, that kind of hits the end, right, of what any kind of science can do in the field of intelligence. Okay. Now it does this over and over again because the world is cyclical and computers are getting faster, right? And things like neural nets, and the neural nets are very, very old, right? 1980s or older, actually, but I have the NASA code from the 1980s. It's in C. I have the original neural net code from NASA from the 1980s. Those experiments keep hitting dead ends. And I think swarm intelligence, there's a weird coincidence that was the topic yesterday. And that Fred knows it. Fred knows freaking you want a genius? Fred is a freaking genius. What a genius he is. He knows so much stuff about so much stuff. It's absurd. And then he had the professor that defined intelligence in computing. Cog Sci is like a 90s thing. Like they've already solved intelligence to a degree that Cog Sci isn't even close to. And it's the 80s, right? So the reason why that happens is because, and again, Vervaeke talked about this on Karen Wong's Meaning Code channel not too long ago with Wolfgang Smith. If you listen closely, you'll hear it. They go into science to get the answers to life, the universe, and everything, which of course science doesn't have, but sometimes claims it does. Don't believe them; they're liars. And they come by their lies honestly, but also I don't care. I don't care why you lie. Makes no difference to me. I'm a pragmatist. They don't get those answers, right? They think they're in psychology, they're not there. They go into philosophy, they're not there. They're trying to combine disciplines, so they combine the material aspect of science, which is neuroscience, with the non-material aspect in science, which isn't a science, which is called psychology, right? And they create a new discipline of science because science is what we do, and how we do anything is science. We use the tools of logic, reason, rationality, and we science it up and we dissect everything and we figure it out. And it's been wildly successful for a bunch of things for decades, right? And like that doesn't work. And they didn't start from trying to emulate intelligence because that wasn't what psychology was about. And that wasn't what neuroscience was about. And so of course they're behind. Does that make more sense, Nathaniel? I mean, this is so. I was talking on the stream earlier too, and they were like, I mentioned the dust up with Peterson. I'm like, the dust up with Peterson is, Peterson's worse now. Peterson's was at his best when he was teaching, because he's a teacher. Like when he's not teaching students, he's outside his core competency. When he's not talking about, maps of meaning and psychology, he's out of his core competency. When he's talking about symbolism, he's out of his core competency.
Yeah.
Right? That's why he's worse now. There's no other, you don't need a complicated conspiracy. You sided with the right wing. Daily Wire is not right wing, guys. You should meet a right wing person. You probably met them and you don't even know, but you don't understand them, which is just bizarre. Nathaniel kind of sounds like a cult trying to science. No, science is occult, like for real, technically, right? Because it tried to get outside of religion, because Immanuel Kant, who is just the worst kind of human you could imagine, said you could or should or something, right? It said he's like, oh, we have to free philosophy from being the handmaiden of religion, and it's like, well, A, you can't, and B, why? And like, how would you even do such a stupid thing? And what would be the result? Oh, you destroy the world. Thanks, Immanuel Kant, you retard. Nathaniel, yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad so part of the problem, Nathaniel, so I really appreciate the feedback. I never know if my explanations are good or bad. And Castle's great, but like he's there. Like he's there. He can tell my stuff way better than I can. So I never know if I suck. And like Castle and Ixnon here are probably better than I am, or Manuel or somebody, right? Ixnon. Comp sci is trying to put intelligence into the machine. That's a good point. That's a really good point, actually. Maybe I should have gone there too. Vervaeke on the cog sci is trying to get intelligence out of the machine. Yeah. Comp sci is trying to put intelligence in the machine, and Vervaeke is trying to get intelligence out of the machine. That's really well said. See what I mean? Like, why do I talk when these guys do it better? I don't know. I had no idea.
It's an interesting point about the science being a cult, because the whole thing of science is they always talk about the scientific discovery. It's always uncover, and like a cult comes from to hide and conceal, right? And like that, you made an interesting point. I think it was on Father Eric's stream. This thing where there's the other, like the Latin cultus is not the same thing as the what is the word? Obculare is from what the occult is from, but cultus is closer to like cultivation, which you rightly pointed out. And it's just like, oh yeah, if you're cultivating like vegetables and stuff like that, like it's devotion and that which revolves around something for like, responsibility, versus this thing of keeping things covered. But it's interesting because normally the occult is something that, it's like secret, to kind of, oh, we got to cover things up. But that whole point of, sort of breaking out of that and trying to escape something else, it's like it's this constant uncovering of things over and over and over again. It's like, oh, we got to flip over every rock to find all the hidden occult stuff. And it's like,
yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, it doesn't have to be, but it easily strays into that. And that is what people missed. It's like, if you're not constrained, you'll turn it to the bad. So Nathaniel, you take a minute to unpack, but I've been around for like 2 years now, so I'm getting there. Oh, good. I guess I'm doing a terrible job. That's fine. I take a minute to unpack because I never know where people are starting. So I try to give a broad base, right? I'm trying to give a lot of touch points for people to land on so they can connect so they can make the relationships. And like, if there's one thing that's definitely true, I'm really bad at knowing where other people are at. Really bad at it. I'm much better one-on-one in person, but still really bad. Sally Joe, never can be enough questions. That's true. Sally Joe, took like 2 years to realize parabolic knowing was poetic knowing. We don't talk about that, Sally. We don't even know. You don't reveal the errors. No, of course. Yeah, we made a huge mistake. Which is too bad, because parabolic knowing is more accurate in both the material and ethereal than poetic. But poetic resonates better. So it's like, well, I mean, I guess, right? And also parabolic was what Mary Cohen used. Miss her dearly. What a wonderful woman. I wanted one more conversation with her and didn't get it. But yeah, I mean, so it was easy to kind of fall into. Nathaniel, I actually recorded about 45 minutes of you, Manuel, and Sally Joe yelling at me 2 years ago. I have to revisit it every once in a while. Well, you know what? That, my friend, is our specialty. Me and Manuel in particular yelling at people, that's what helps them. I know no one believes me, but also absolutely helps them. That's what people need, and that's what they get the most out of. See, Sally Joe, lol, yeah, that sounds about right. I didn't have to yell at Castle or Ixnon. I mean, I yell at people anyway, just because I can, but I didn't have to.
Yeah, I think you've definitely used your outside voice before, but that was just in a general sense. You're just very passionate about something.
Hey, the last time I yelled and screamed, one of the two people I yelled and screamed at is getting married. So I don't know.
Well done.
I think it's worth it. So
yeah,
there you go.
You should do that more often.
Freaking Ixnon to you, Nathaniel. Life changing. Well, that's quite a compliment, sir. I hope the Holy Spirit has changed your life, and if we had some conduit or ability to do that, then I guess that's a plus for us. But I that's wonderful. Ixnon, what about hyperbolic knowing? I love it.
I agree.
I'm all in,
1,000,000,000%.
I'm all in. See, this is what I mean. He knows my work better than I do. I wouldn't have come up with that in 100 years. That's fantastic. Hyperbolic knowing. Get yours today. 1995. If you order now, you also get hyperbolic knowing too. Twice as knowledgeable.
I'd probably buy it. Just to have it.
I should make a hyperbolic knowing and sell it on the store.
Yeah. VHS.
Along with my mugs.
Yeah.
And our space dragons and our virtue cards and our dog-headed books and
yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, there's a decent stock on there.
Yeah. I'm surprised we don't get more engagement in the store, but what can I do? I don't know
if you mentioned it that much. I don't know how many people scoured the descriptions. I'm pretty sure it's in the descriptions always, right?
It's usually in the descriptions. Now that you're saying that, I'm like, oh shoot, did I cut it and paste it in this description? Because I might have been sick all day. I don't know.
Oh man.
Yeah, the shop is available. Oh nope, Sally Joe's already answered. Hyperbolic knowing is metangelical. It's metagelical, Sally. Yeah, metagelical. It could be. I don't know. Ixnon. And the dog-headed book that I ordered, you still don't have it. Oh, you should have told me. I will double check. Why don't you have it? I thought we shipped it all off. I will double check. Sally Joe, the Odyssey of Og coming soon. Yes,
oh, very nice.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, the background looks wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
I know. It's very exciting. Yeah, I can't wait to. I'll have the original soon in a mere couple of weeks. Yeah, we'll have to check on the status of that order. I could have sworn we mailed that out like 2 weeks ago, but I will double check. Maybe something happened. We've had a lot of changes too at the post office here, so my small town is growing. I had a fun conversation with one of the mail people in a white van, and I was like, I don't like the white vans. Go back to delivering in your car. And she laughed. She's like, I don't like them sometimes too. But they're real handy. I mean, the van was full.
Believe it.
Van was full, bro. It was full. I'm like, oh my God. And those are way bigger than the old Grumman trucks that they used to use. Just because it's boomtown out here. South Carolina is the most moved to state in the United States, or at least it was last year. And like, there's a bazillion people here. So it's just, just growing. There's all kinds of parts of my town that I didn't know were part of my town. I'm like, what? That's in my town limits? I had no idea.
Oh,
Anselman, carbolic knowing is phenology. Pheno, yeah, okay. Barely. My chemistry sucks, bro. Sucks. It was better when I was young. I had a chemistry set when I was young. I had a bunk bed, not a bunk bed. It was a high up bed. And then under my bed, I had like this little area with books and all kinds of stuff. My father built it all. It was ugly, but I didn't care. And then on the outside of the bed, I could flip down a piece of wood, and I used that for chemistry.
oh, nice.
Yeah, it was like a flip down table. It was on chains and stuff. It was so cool.
That's
And
cool.
I had up until I moved. So the vast majority of my life, I had my desk that my father made. It was custom made for the computer and the TV. And I used it like at the other house I used it. It was like the main sit down workstation area in my basement. And it was ugly, but it worked. And I kept it for decades. Like it was
Wow.
wonderful. Yeah, it was awesome. Maybe I have a picture of it somewhere, but I doubt it. I didn't take a lot of pictures of I'm a photographer too, but like I never took a lot of pictures of my stuff. I'm
Right.
taking pictures of landscapes and
Yeah, no, exactly.
occasionally people, but mostly landscapes. I don't care about people. I don't like people. Did you know, Castle,
Here we
that
go.
all the problems of the world are caused by people? Every single no one ever talks about that. No, never.
You know, I think I heard something about that before.
I used that last night when we met somebody new at the event there. It was pretty.
Oh,
It
nice.
was, yeah, it was pretty fun. Handsome, I had accidents with acid in chemistry class. I bet you did. I don't believe I had any acid accidents. I did embarrass myself in front of a chemist once, but I was like, I found a new form of energy and I mixed these things together. And he's like, yeah, it was probably the hydrogen peroxide because the hydrogen released in the. And I was like, no, I didn't use that much hydrogen peroxide. And my mom's like, he has a PhD in chemistry. And I was like, oh. But I think I was like, 8.
Yeah.
Right. So like cut me a little slack,
I think I only attended something like 3 or 4 chemistry class sessions ever, probably in my entire life. Max.
That's why you're so well grounded. Although chemistry is more grounded science than the rest.
Yeah. It's cool. It was something that I had kind of, it was like as a kid I was interested in certain stuff like robotics and chemistry and stuff, but then I just never got into it because there just weren't opportunities for it, which is honestly fine. Like now I don't really have so much interest in it. Like I see people do cool stuff and it's like, oh nice, that's a cool thing. But I don't have an interest in doing it myself.
Yeah, that's fair.
So.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I liked chemistry. Chemistry was fun. Ultimately, my thing was computers. I was in the right place at the right time and super well supported and had a computer from a young age, had 2 computers almost my entire life. And I mean, at my last house, I had 8 machines in the upstairs office and 50 in the basement.
Wow.
And Verizon fiber.
Very nice.
I didn't start out with fiber. When I started out, I had I think I just had a modem line at 19.2K baud. And then I upgraded as quickly as I could to ISDN, dual channel digital. So I had 2 bonded lines at 64, I think it's 64.4K each. So I had a 128K connection. And given that I own a Class C IP address, which I still own, that was cool because my house was on the internet, like a first, like the internet, like to my house internet. And then it was later that like we got cable and Verizon and DSL, so that cable lines came into the basement. And the DSL and the ISDN came upstairs. So I was running 2 networks all the time. And yeah, I had my mail server and like my web server and all that in the upstairs office machines. And then I had one machine upstairs that was connected, and I could switch machines at any time. I could just
Nice.
repoint machines. Yeah, so I could switch them to use the actual internet line if I wanted to. But the problem was DSL was slow too, right? So it was roughly a T1 speed. It was 1.5. I had SDSL, symmetrical DSL. So it was 1.5 megabits up and 1.5 megabits down for years. And I never got beyond that because DSL was the best I could do. Other lines were really expensive and I was really cheap, and I didn't need high speed because I had the high speed on the other network. So if I needed using high speed, I'd just tell it to use the other network. Problem solved.
Yeah.
All I was using the main network for was email and web services, and it's not like I was running huge websites. Yeah. Well, and I could do neat things, right? Like I could run DNS services for the variable IP, whether it was fiber or not, without using the cable services, because I owned my own DNS server and it was upstairs. So it could monitor the other network and switch IPs if the IP changed and do all that work. And I knew all that stuff, so I just wrote scripts and made everything work. Yeah, I had all that stuff going.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And that's how I saw the meaning crisis happen in the computer industry. Because they lost touch with the base reality, with the roots, with where it all started. And then you could just see that nobody knew how anything worked. And now we just have it state. No one knows how anything works in computers now.
Yeah.
It is frightening how bad I'm like, oh no, if certain things break.
I see it every day. I see it every workday.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of programs, and including Microsoft Teams recently. It's just like, but there's a bunch of these major programs that are super integral for a bunch of client companies. That's just like, why does it keep going down and no one knows what the issue is? And it's also tough because like the client companies are also paying for the cheaper versions of stuff, and downgraded their VPN because it wasn't bad enough, and all these things to save some money. And it's just like, guys, you're like outsourcing your call centers to South Africa. Like, why are you downgrading the VPNs? Like, what are you doing? And but yeah, there's some interestingly, it's actually really funny. They haven't had problems. It's all the people in the US that are having the worst possible times. The people that are outsourced way out are perfectly fine, which is amazing because they were not doing well at the start of this year. It was the complete opposite.
Oh, really? That's
funny. It's been really interesting.
Nathaniel, do you have a take on AI and art? I mean, AI can't do art. It's a Frankenstein funhouse mirror. I know that's broad, but I can be, other than there's no such thing as AI in art. AI is fundamentally parasitic and requires attention. And you have to direct the AI towards a thing, which means you give it all of your attention and it automates some random theft.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening. It doesn't, for example, AIs can't code. Not saying they can't write useful software. They seem to be able to, but they don't understand programming languages at all. I've done extensive testing on this as a software engineer with 35 years experience. They can't code. Like, they would not pass a programming interview at all with me. I'd be like, you don't understand these concepts. They don't understand art, and therefore they can't manipulate art. And what we call art is not art anyway. Art that does not reflect the highest ineffable good is not art. It's something else. And maybe it's fine. Like, it's probably entertainment, like Andy Warhol, entertainment. Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And he did work on an Amiga. And I love Amigas because they're the second best machine ever made. Maybe the best. Depends on whether or not you're counting the workstations and the next machines, which are arguably the best machines ever made. So I bounce back and forth. Is it the Amiga? Is it the next machine? I don't know. I still love my Amigas. So I got to get one of them working one of these days. I have a brand new Amiga case that I bought a while ago. They were supposed to ship me a freaking blue one, though, and they never shipped it. I'm like, do not order stuff on Indiegogo. It was 3 or 4 years late, and they never gave me my blue one. I'm like, I'm happy to have the free white one. That's kind of great, but I wanted a blue one, you SOBs. Like, I really wanted a blue case. I love blue. Blue is the only color, as everybody knows. Yeah, I mean, I had a 64. I had a VIC 20. I had a VIC 20 with an 8K cartridge. So my VIC 20 had 11K of memory. Haha. And I wrote an adventure game in if statements. I mean, it was the most. The C64 is and will probably remain forever the most sold computer of all time. Like, as a single brand. And I don't think there's a number two. Like, it dominated the market entirely. And there's still people out there restoring them and fixing them and stuff. Like Adrian's Digital Basement, I have a love-hate relationship with Adrian. I do want to strangle him because his troubleshooting skills are awful and he's sloppy. But he's lovable and he gets so much joy out of the simplest things. It's childlike and lovely to watch. So I do watch his stuff. Yeah, Adrian's Digital Basement is a fun little retro channel. He restores C64s. He's got a ZIF 64 that's basically all the chips are socketed, so you can just use a lever and lift them out and put new chips in and test them, and it's crazy. And he knows how to, like, he's got oscilloscopes and everything, and he shows, like, but he's not good at it, which is hysterical to me. He works on like CRTs. He's amazing with CRTs. Like, he knows everything about CRTs. It's amazing. But he's terrible at basic troubleshooting. He's not real good with chips. I'm watching some of the stuff and I'm like yelling at the damn Chromebook or whatever. Usually I do it when I'm not feeling well. I'll have to lay down or something. I'll get the Chromebook out. Chromebook sits in the bedroom next to the bed, unless I'm taking it with me to take notes. For that purpose, so I can watch YouTube when I'm not really feeling well and can't do much else. I have an entertainment device. I often fall asleep because it's usually I'm under attack by whatever's attacking me. So I just nod off. But that's interesting. He fixes them. I have an emulator for both the Amiga and the C64. I have what's it called? Amiga Forever? Commodore Forever? Something like that. I got a C64 Mini a few years back. Not the same, but a nostalgia trip. Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is a lot of people are like, I like retro games. I'm like, yeah, I was never a gamer. So, and ironically, I just suck at video games. Right? Strategic games, like, I do decently at World of Tanks, and I was a world-class Quake World player. 244. Anybody want to play 244? Anybody want to lose at 244? You will. I mean, I was top 3 on every server I played at towards the end. I was really good. I was like smoking good. Really, really good. And there were 3 characters in that game I could play, really well and do decent at. Like, I was like world class. And yeah, I think I've told the story before that there were some guys I worked with at the bank. Yeah, the programmers. And they were like, you play Quake? And I was like, well, I mean, Quake World, but I mean, I went through Quake to get to Quake World. Like, we're going to play with you. And I'm like, okay. And like, if you want. And I just annihilated them. But I had a server and it was in my house.
Yeah.
And I told them all this. And plus it was my server. I'm just going to tell you the truth. I am almost 100% certain it was the fastest Quake and Quake World server that has ever existed. I spent so much time tweaking that thing, and I knew, especially back then, I knew my stuff big time. And so I just destroyed them. But they didn't have a chance. Like, they didn't understand. I'm playing with a server that is 2 switches away from my gaming machine, which was I always had a significant gaming machine. I never gamed with it. I always had a significant gaming machine because I was doing other things. Like, gaming back in the day, especially the early days, that was the way to get high performance hardware for short money. Really high performance hardware. Nathaniel, I only enjoy video games with other humans next to me. I did that for a while. We were doing Quake World, me and the girlfriend, years ago, together. And yeah, I mean, I would play a lot of Quake World. Ixnay, could you beat Sargon of Akkad at Warhammer? I have no idea. I have never played Warhammer once. I think Warhammer is probably for faggots. I'm just saying. If it's a strategy game, there's good odds I can beat most people at most strategy games. But it takes time to learn. Like, you have to learn what the valid strategies are. And like, the problem with 244 was my buddy and I, because we played not side by side, but like the only reason I was playing Quake World was because I want to talk to him, basically. And so we were there at the beginning of 244 with all the map changes and all the changes to the characters. So as they were tweaking the game and getting the gameplay just right, we were playing the whole time. And we were the ones that invented the idea of going into 244. You have two identical castles, and there's a bridge and a moat. And people settled on snipers, and so they just put snipers in the castle. At various points in the dark, you couldn't see them, and the snipers would just snipe at each other. And so there was a deadlock in the game. And my buddy and I were like, we know a way around this. And so we practiced and practiced and practiced, and we came up with a way to, inside the castle, you can get in the water, and there's just enough time to pop out under the bridge over the moat. If you have, I think it was a 2 pixel variance. So if you stay in the middle and you have good equipment, which we did, you can go straight under the bridge, go down and come up in the castle and kill all of the snipers before they can even see you. And then you have the flag. Nice. And then they're completely taken off guard. Now, it's likely you won't get out with the flag right away, which is why 2 of us used to go. So what would happen is we would time things because we were cheating. This is before TeamSpeak and all that nonsense. We both had, I bought the first ever wireless speakerphone, wireless speaker handphone. It had a 4-hour battery life. And so I was on the phone with him on speaker. So we were coordinating. Yeah. So we used to have people on the server, even not Quake World, the regular Quake server, and we would frustrate the crap out of them because they'd kill one of us and the other one would know where he was on the map and he'd just kill him immediately. And people were like, "You're cheating." It's like, well, we kind of are, because you can't talk to each other and we're actually live on the phone. Maybe like, you guys are in the same room, or like, we are not in the same room. We're not in the same city. We're miles apart, which was true. We're also cheating. Right. So too bad. Right. Also cheating. Sally Joe, still pretty sure video games are the door to hell, probably, that welcomes in your time, energy, and attention. That is true. Also, they can be entertainment, but it's easy to get caught in entertainment. Yeah. And that, I think a lot of political commentary has just become entertainment and people didn't notice. And that's why most political commentary is garbage done by low IQ retards. Sorry.
That's sort of my worry, because I definitely see people like stuck in the door to hell because of certain games and stuff, but also the point about entertainment where it's like there's a lot of other doors that people aren't seeing. And I would actually say, at least for older people, there's way more. There's so many of these very subtle sort of things that completely trap you, and like that for sure. Like the political commentary, you've got the unsolved mysteries. You got like all the those sort of like the stuff that people wind up spending like enormous amounts of time on, right, and everything. And like that type of stuff is, I mean, like it's very infrequently that I'll go and I'll check something out on TV or something like that. Like I was watching a sushi competition, and that was pretty decent. But the thing is, you just see the commercials, and it's just like, yeah, no, this is like actually straight from hell. Like it's really bad. And or like a buddy of mine told me that he like woke up to the TV being on because I think he's traveling right now, um, and so and he's traveling with his family, so I think somebody left the TV on in the hotel room, and and he said that like just the horrific stuff that he just woke up to is just like it was HBO, and it's just like there's
Oh no.
like what horrific thing have you just welcomed into like this nightmare vampire that you just let into the house just by flipping this on, and it's just like yeah, no, it's really it's really genuinely bad. Like there's so much that I would like. I'm so torn because all of these different doors, like they're not shaped the same way, they're not the same size. Like
Right.
how deep into hell does it bring you? Right? Like
Well,
there's so
if
many
you
of these
wanted
little
to
things.
drag it into the Matrix, so in the Matrix, the doors are all the same and they're all
Mm,
down a hallway. It's like that's a flat view of the world, bro.
yeah.
Very flat. Hopefully, Jesse will get off his ass and contact me. I hope he's doing okay. I think
Yeah.
he is, though. He's on Twitter.
Okay.
And we can get this Matrix video done because Matrix. Wow, there's so much flattening in the Matrix. And yeah, if you think like you know how to see the doors, you're in a lot of trouble. There was a great TV show. I really enjoyed it. It's called Being Erica, and it's a Canadian show. There's 3 seasons of it. It's fascinating. It's really good. I really liked it. It could be the cute woman thing, but no, it's really good. I liked it. It was well written. That has doors in it. It's very interesting the way they do, and the doors go to a therapist, which is even more. It's fascinating. Not all of them. There are other doors. Yeah, it's a fascinating show. I thought it was rather well written. Um, but it's easy to get sucked into those sorts of types of entertainment and confuse them for not entertainment,
All right.
which I think is what happens a lot of times is that people get sucked in. So like, let's suppose you were talking about sports because this is a
Oh
big
yeah.
trend that happened, right? You're a sports commentator. And really, what you're doing is you're already in the entertainment industry and you're commenting, we'll say seriously, because it is serious. It's serious. All play is serious, John Vervaeke. Sorry. You're serious about what you're saying, and your stuff is serious because people take it seriously, but you're in the entertainment industry fundamentally. And then you go into political commentary, right? And with the US version, we'll say, not the European version, because they just have a better way of thinking about politics than we do. Then what happens is you're still entertaining. And then when your predictions don't come true, you're like shocked. And it's like,
Mm,
yeah, but you're just an entertainer. Chillax. And then you have that blending, right? Because now you've got all these comedians who are fundamentally entertainers talking about serious topics. And if you go
mm,
back to Burn Power, the Anadromous channel that he runs, which is fantastic, although just cut the damn music clips down, Burn, please, please, I beg you. How We Got Here, it's a wonderful series. It's just way too long. Have a nice drive to New England while listening to it, and maybe I think it was the drive up and the drive back. It's a long series. It's a lot of hours. He talked about Bob Dylan sort of corrupting the music industry by running around telling people you can't just play pop, entertainment, fluff music. You need to talk about social issues in your music. And so you can see the
mm,
flattening of the world where you're taking entertainment and trying to lift it up into the realm of social change, which is a non-existent frame, but whatever. Uh, this is the flattening. This is emergence is good nonsense. And then you're losing the intimacy, the connection, the meaning in the world because you flattened it.
mhm,
And this is all part, like the flattening comes first, right? But also it doesn't really matter, right? Like we're here now. And that's part of the problem is that everything's been flattened and things are being, we'll say, propped up, right? And that was part of the myth of World War II is a propping up of a bad story to take the place of a myth. This is why Joseph Campbell destroyed the world. And I mean, he just denigrates myth down to story, and it's like, it's not a myth is not a story, and a story is not a myth. Like, they're two different words. So why is this hard? I don't understand why people struggle with these things. It's not hard. It's easy. So you kind of end up you end up through one of the doors to hell, right? Because your entertainment and your serious engagement are confused.
Yeah, it's tough, and I mean, I guess without going too far down that hallway, I guess there's many rooms in hell, right? So it's like and they're very distinct. So you can have a lot of doors.
Yeah.
But also, this is time for me to bust out my one note that I took from the monologue. You had a really good point there about that if you aim for virtue, the meaning is free, but that requires intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing I think about is like you have all these things, like, because I have seen utterly unvirtuous Super Bowl Sundays, like, so horrifically bad sports fan stuff, even, like, there's a lot of really bad ways that some of these things manifest, and some of the things even look kind of virtuous. I mean, like, I think in the past I've talked about like the the sloth of workaholism, and it's just like, yeah, you can still, just as you can be gluttonous while being rail thin, but being a tyrant about how, with the exact temperature of your tea or something like that. It's just like you can still have that. But in the same way, like, I don't think, and this is also like, there is no universalism sort of thing here. I think that there are certain manifestations of certain things that are okay within their given contexts, right? Like, I would probably abolish 99% of the stuff that's on TV, but I probably wouldn't want to completely undo the invention itself, per se, because there's certain stuff that actually I know for a fact is very good, but also the majority of the stuff is trash. And that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like, if you're able to have it subject to you and not be subject to it, and that it's something that sort of serves you and that you could let go and, importantly, like, not be hurt by it. Like, I think this was something from after the book club last week. I was talking about that. If you want, like, the complete reverse, the complete reverse of being apathetic is being pathetic, right? Like, most of the time,
Right.
like, a person's going to be in between. People usually think of apathy as like, oh, numbness or whatever, but it's just not being pathetic or not being pathological, like, not suffering is what that is. Like, you don't have to be unfeeling. Like, that's, way too flattened of a perspective. But it's, if you were to never have this thing again, would that hurt you? And it doesn't mean that if you did experience discomfort that makes you pathetic. Like, you don't go all the way to the other end. But it's like, okay, well, yeah, like, if it just so happened that there was what do they call it, like a Carrington event, and I can never watch football on TV ever again, might sting, but is that going to ruin your life? Like, is that going to completely demolish you? And I had this experience with, there was actually a game that I had a decent amount of time in. It was Monster Hunter Rise, and I was like right at the edge of. I had been playing it off and on for like a year or something like that, and just going through it, and there was something where I was like, okay, my character was almost complete. Like, I had almost gotten every sort of thing. I was maybe a week out from finishing the character and having all the stuff that I kind of aspired to get, and then I just kind of had this impulse where I just thought, I don't need this anymore. Like, it wasn't that it sucked or that there was anything particularly offensive about it or anything. But I just kind of had this feeling where I was just like, yeah, could I live without this? And could I just put that time towards something else? Even if that time was towards something entertaining, can I do better? Can I select something better than this? And I thought, yeah, okay. And then, like, on a whim, I just deleted it. And I was just like, yeah, it was just like a year of working towards this thing. And I was like, yeah, did that hurt me? No. actually I didn't.
That's great.
If I had done it 6 months before, I probably would have had an attachment. But
Right.
yeah, but
Right.
I think that was during this past Lent, and like I had heard that thing of like, yeah, the whole point of this is so that you give up a
Mm.
thing, which that was not even what I gave up. But it's like, oh, you give up a thing so that when you get it back, if you never got it back, that it wouldn't bother you at all.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I need like that's a really important way of doing that. And it turns out that when you get the thing back, you enjoy it a lot more, and you're not
Right.
possessive over it, and that itself kind of corrupts the relationship, even to like an inanimate object or to entertainment or whatever. Like that possessiveness and that fear of like, oh, if I lose this, it's like that. Actually, that also is indicates like a lack of intimacy.
Yeah, I mean, John Vervaeke talks about this as having mode versus being mode, right? Just from, I think. And it's like, well, you're so close, but you're not able to make the connections. Right. And then he talks about agent arena relationship and then fails to see the connection that there's no arena with only one agent and there's no agent and only one arena. And then he talks about distributed cognition and then doesn't connect it to time. That means the Bible's the smartest book ever written, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't, all of your formulas, all your stuff that you've quote discovered or whatever lead to the same conclusion, and you just don't like that answer because you've already rejected it, and you just won't sort of come to the right conclusion because you're not able to connect things correctly, intimately. Nathaniel, that's interesting about Bob Dylan. Yeah, I thought Burn Power stuff is really good. Burn's really smart. I don't like it at the beginning of his outline because I don't think he understands the myth of World War II. Maybe you should watch my live stream. Somebody tell him. I like instrumental or weird music like Primus. Primus is fun, but I haven't listened to them a lot. Having to make a change is certainly how things have gone. Well, I mean, I think the problem is you change and the world change, and everything is changing all the time. So,
Well,
yeah.
I had a response actually about the AI and art thing because I had a recent experience. Well, a couple of recent experiences. There was when I was terrorizing people on the server with with the AI art that it was the first time actually that I had ever sent in a request for AI art, and it was as horrific as I had hoped. Actually, it really did what I wanted it to do. But I will probably, hopefully, never have a reason to use it again. But it was interesting because I had recently, and I like your point about the things that we call art generally being entertainment. And I was thinking, I recently had a project I was going back and forth with a guy. I commissioned a company logo through this guy, and he had a really good deal. And I went back and forth with him for like 2 weeks, something like that. And I could tell immediately, like, yeah, he's using AI tools to do some of the stuff and everything. The good thing was I already had a concept that I just kind of slapped together. I knew what all the elements were going to be. They just weren't very refined. So it's just like, and to the point of like, okay, this is going to be a parasitic thing. It's going to, and I wasn't super explicit in my reasoning for this, but I
Right.
did know. I was like, okay, this guy's going to be watching the tools and he's going to know how to use them better than I am. And then I'm going to have to do to him what he's doing to the AI. Right. I'm just like, okay, change this, change this, change this, and it was funny because I could see that I would make like 2 or 3 suggestions and then he would come back and only 1 or 2 of them were fixed. But I could also tell that like he tried, right? And that the tools weren't cooperating with him either. It took way more time than if someone had actually done it by hand.
Yep.
It was again a good deal, like the amount of money I spent on I am very happy with it. He actually just finalized the version and I'm very happy with it like 2.5 hours ago, something like that, and sent it to me. So I'm very glad. But yeah, it was an adventure. And I realized like he had the full concept. I was telling him what I needed. And it was so funny because he's not able to actually go in there and mediate himself. He has to go and tell the machine to make the interpretation and then execute. And then it just failed over and over again. And it got to the point where I actually had to do something by hand and say, make it do exactly this, in this exact spot, do exactly this thing. and I think he had everything just right. And there was something. There's a frame in the logo, and there's like a little blue line that was in there for no reason. And I think it might have taken him 3 or 4 days to get that line out. I don't know.
Yep.
He might have been working on some other stuff. I don't know, but the fact is, I didn't hear a response after I requested that line get taken out for like 3 or 4 days. It was just like,
No,
yeah.
so the video that I have kind of ready. I mean, I need to do the voiceover on it, but the concept's there. And actually, I should have pinged you about this because actually, you can do this in 4 seconds. I was trying to have AI do some animation, very, very simple animation.
Yeah.
I have a picture, make it 3-dimensional, zoom in, turn the camera, zoom in, turn the camera this way, visual, turn the camera that way, visual. That's it. That's the whole thing. Doesn't even need to be that long necessarily. Trying to tell an AI to do that and the artifacts it would put in place where I'm like, just only move the camera. And like I'd have 4 new objects on the screen, or like it would take the curve and change it. And I'm like, bro, why is this hard for you, AI? And yeah, because I've been experimenting with the agent stuff with AI. So I have Cloud Desktop, which I actually pay for, which is totally worth the money. Most days, if you're using it, it's way worth it. And there's a Blender plugin.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned something about that.
Man, it's so much fun. But
Yeah, that's cool.
wow, does the AI not know what it's doing? It's like amazing. It's amazing how dumb it is. Everyone's like, AI is amazing. I'm like, what AI are you using, bro? Because I use that AI and it ain't doing that. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's what is Nathaniel? Nathaniel, is neo-Luddism silly, or do you think the new movement? I'm not familiar with the movement.
Like Amish?
When you're putting neo in front of things, I always get worried because I'm like, do you mean the thing that is a pattern that doesn't need a new name, and you're putting new in front of it, or do you mean something else? Because I don't know. I mean, it's weird, right? Because we're stuck in this world where the sci-fi movies from the 80s and 90s, they already resolved this for us. No, it's not that hard. Like AI will take over. How it will take over is not reflected correctly in the movies, but they're not wrong. They're not wrong. AI is parasitic on whatever it's needing, right? If it's coding, it's parasitic on software engineers. If it's doing art, it's parasitic on artists. If it it's a parasite. And I'm not saying no parasites. I'm a technologist. I love computers. I got here, and I think the first 6 years or 5 years that I was here, I just had 2 or 3 machines, and now there's a rack with 4 more machines in the back room somehow. And I don't. If I had another building, a little office, that wouldn't be a big deal. But it's a big deal because I have a tiny house. So not a tiny house, but it's a small place. It's 900 square feet. So it's yeah. I mean these things are weird. Like silly as all the ism movements are. Yeah. I mean, I like computers. It's easy to use AI for good things. Also, the 80s movies were not wrong. Terminator's not wrong. Matrix is not wrong in some ways, although it's a terrible story, but that's a Jesse video. Hopefully soon. The fight against that is real. It's a real pattern. It's inevitable. We know why it's there. It ain't going to go away. It's going to keep reappearing. And it's going to be correct in that it is unstoppable. It is going to be real in that it is going to manifest. And there's not much anybody can do about it. What form will it take? When will it start? Who cares? Like everyone's obsessed with like, where are we in the pattern? What difference does it make? You have work to do.
Right.
When you do that work, you co-manifest meaning. If you don't believe me, go back to the beginning, listen to the monologue. This resolves your problem. Could you get wiped out by something you can do nothing about? Yes. Also, you can do nothing about that. I know. Don't worry about things you can do nothing about. Here we go. Ixnon. Sometimes I think Ixnon just has my brain or something. It's like AI Optimist didn't watch War Games. I keep telling people, man, like War Games has all the philosophy and all of the science and all of the understanding of things like AI that you need. And you don't actually need, like, you don't need to read Heidegger and Immanuel Kant. You just watch War Games, seriously. And like the whole thing is there. Also, watch Real Genius, not only because it's funny, but because same deal. Like there's a bunch of stuff in there that's like, wait, what? Right? Like you want you want to hit the end of academics and understand it. Hey, these are 80s movies. Like this was all resolved. I don't understand why people are confused. Just watch these movies. If you didn't get it, watch them again. The answers are right there. I watched them as a kid. Like, yes, those are the answers. I get it. Everyone's like, how do you know this? And I'm like, how do you not know this? I don't understand.
Mm.
It was, well, what did I find recently? I found there was something that I was engaged with. And I was like, well, of course you know that. You know that from here. And I was like, oh yeah, that's where I know that from. There's all kinds of things. Like I said, it popped up in yet last night. Swarm intelligence. And I was so fuzzy. I'm like, sounds familiar, but I don't quite know what he's talking about. And then he's like, and this guy and that guy, and he's like Boyd's, and I was like, I know what Boyd's is. And then he's like, yeah, we have an algorithm for ants and an algorithm for bees. Those are the three main algorithms: ants, bees, and birds. And their behavior in collective intelligence or distributed intelligence. Right. Oh, we already know all this. Yes, computers have already done all this, and we have algorithms for it even. The formulas are known. Right. And the limitations are known too. Because that was the other thing he pointed out. He said, they're not generic. They're not like generic AI LLMs, right? They're very specific, and they only work in certain problem domains, much like AI, which is hidden by the LLM, by the way. But whatever, we won't point that out. It'll be too obvious, and people will cry. So I was like, oh, I know all this. And he mentioned the NEAT algorithm. And I remember the NEAT algorithm. I used that for a bunch of stuff. That was fun. I remember those days. That was the 90s. It was like the early to mid 90s. Yeah, that was when I was building out the lab at the house. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's people just put so much stock into a lot of this stuff, and this is something that I've kind of had on my mind a little bit. I'm realizing that it applies a little bit to the AI stuff, but there's a lot of these things that people like. You get certain affordances from technology or from procedures, or from having a large amount of people that are doing something. Like you can benefit. There's certain affordances that you can kind of get away with not applying a certain amount of effort personally with these things. But I've noticed, and it's not a new thing, like at all. Like I've been seeing it actually, especially among like certain traditional groups, that there's a desire to leverage something beyond what it's capable of leveraging,
right,
without someone not just revivifying it, like actually participating with it, like people actually understanding what is this thing and how do I actually engage with it.
without
But the thing is, like,
participation.
yeah, and it's like, oh, just have the machine do it. And it's like, no, you're atrophying. And also, like, it's not going to, if you have, like, I found a lot of utility in watching YouTube videos on how to do something, and then I go and I do that thing. But if you just have the computer just running YouTube videos on how to do stuff, and then you go off and do something else, like that, nothing happened, right? Like it's just going on a loop. And
or if it's philosophical, like YouTube philosophy is terrible because
right.
it's all conversation. David Flores, Jonathan Pedro's subscriber only video this month was on the World War II myth. Yeah, that came out today, I believe, David. I heard about this. As I said in my monologue, I also, one person said mine was better. I posted about you in his comments to get you a combo. Thank you very much. I've already reached out to his people a few days ago about this, so maybe with comments that'll help. I probably should have told my friend to also do the same. Hopefully it helps. Thank you. It will help, I'm sure. It's not like Jonathan Michaud doesn't know me by sight even, which is just, I'm blown away by that fact every time I think about it. Sergio, thanks, David. It's really interesting. Everyone over similar ideas. Yeah, the zeitgeist is there. David Flores, his take was interesting, mostly about taboos surrounding it and how they manifest. Okay. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm not in a position where I feel like commenting, but yes, I'm sure that the Canadian perspective on the myth of World War II is very interesting and full of nuance that I cannot have. So I'm glad he's commenting on it. And yeah, the timing is interesting. And I did say that I want to talk about the myth of World War II, so his people are aware. So hopefully if people make him aware of it, he'll get with his people and his people will say, we knew who that is. Yes, we should do that. David Flores, i.e. you can hold up the sickle and hammer, but not the other ancient co-opted symbols. Yeah, I mean, one of the ways you know the myth of World War II is breaking, I don't think I mentioned this, is that Jordan Peterson is breaking. He's saying, why is it okay to talk about Stalin, who killed just as many, if not slightly more people, right? Why is it okay? Wait, why was it okay for Pol Pot to go to the Sorbonne and implement his white paper, right, or his thesis, and kill a bunch of people, and no one bats an eyelash or takes responsibility for, well, we encouraged him to do this, and it killed a bunch of people. It's a good freaking question, right? And yeah, that's all wrapped up in this. He said much of the same stuff. I am going to take your word for that. That it's a fragmenting myth. Well, yeah, I mean, again, it can't hold things, but yeah. I don't think it's a fragmenting myth. I think it just you ran out, like we're at the end of it, and it couldn't contain what it was trying to contain. And if you think of it as a container, then it was a very poor container because it's a story, not a myth. And I think that's part of the problem. I thought that the idea of differentiating the penultimate from the ultimate evil was important, even though Ixon found it right away and called me out and made me reveal something that, I don't know. I mean, that happened, so I'm okay with it. Sally Joe, yeah, the four wins only meaning evil 20th century dictator messes up. The international symbol is about a nexus. Yeah. David Flores, the story is at an end was his frame. Yeah, I think the story is at an end is certainly right. I think, again, the problem is that it's reached its end, but as much as I love Dr. Peterson, like, not only did he do that, like him, for real, but you don't realize, like, no, he destroyed the myth. No one else, like, he did that first. Like, it's his momentum that's doing that. I was gonna do the momentum video this week. I've just been too sick, so I apologize, but I might record it tomorrow. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. We have to finish up that stupid book club. I mean, I love my book club, but also we've got to finish the book club. Manuel said that to me today. It was so funny. I mean, he was being funny, but he's like, I've got to do my nephew's birthday. We got to get this book club done. I'm like, yes. You're right, Manuel. It's your book club. It was funny. We had a blast. the momentum of that story was smashed by Jordan Peterson. But I think the problem is he's still living in the myth and doesn't really understand that, yeah, you've kind of killed the story, or at least hit its limit or broken through it or whatever. But now everyone's in free fall because you didn't replace it with anything. And this is where Pastor Paul's great point comes in, which is someone needs to catch the people where Peterson leaves them off. Yes, but he didn't do that, which has forced me to do a bunch of things that I don't have the resources to do. But now we're doing them thanks to people like Castle and Sally and Manuel, and unfortunately we lost Michelle and Sanjuro, who we needed. And a bunch of other people, Gustavs, and tons of people are helping, which is great. We need more help. I wish I had like $1 million, because then I could do all this in like a week, but that's not going to happen. It would also be nice if I weren't at threat of starvation every 10 minutes. So yeah, I think that understanding that, and that people like Jordan Peterson and James Lindsay and Shagna McCod and Tim Pool and Aaron McIntyre and Curtis Yarvin and Eric Weinstein and Brett Weinstein and whoever else is not going to help us out of this at all, because they don't have the tools and they're still trapped in the myth. In other words, they may no longer believe the story, which is why the Dave Smith thing and the Daryl Cooper thing is a thing. But they have not given up on the ideals. And that's the problem. Like, no. This is why I keep telling people this is going to get way worse before it gets better. Because if you smash the story, and you have to, I get that, you still have to do something about that. Like, there's still a thing that, like, you need to replace the story with something. And if your story is going to be based on the ideals and virtues and framework that created the old story, you're just going to get an equally bad myth. And it's probably not going to work at all. And the reason why is because what broke about the story is, and this is where Carl Benjamin's gotten closer than everybody else, liberalism doesn't work at all. It's based on fundamental flaws, and those flaws are now, they're revealed. We're in the revealing. Those flaws are revealed. And what that means is that you can't gin up another story based on the ideals posited by the myth of World War II. It's not going to work. And if you don't have the replacement myth, the one replacement myth might be Tolkien. What are you going to do? And that I think is why people are like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis all of a sudden, right? Because at some layer they understand intuitively that we need to replace the myth, and we have these myths. Now, I would argue C.S. Lewis is terrible. I just terrible. Better than nothing, maybe.
And especially for myth. I mean, like, he didn't really do myth. I mean, like, he had theories, but if you're looking to him for myth, like, you're not getting.
But right, but they're using him to, right? The Protestants in particular always hold him up. It's like, I get that's your closest myth teller or something, but also he was not a great writer. Maybe his literary exposition is better. That's what Emma said today on that live stream I was referencing earlier. But like, he's terrible. Sorry, he's just terrible. Pointing things out in the flat world that are true may be better than not pointing things out in the flat world, but you're still stuck in the flat world. Sally, you're thinking about where you are based on your families, churches, local communities, momentum. It's a different way to see where you are. Well said, Sally. Sally's way ahead of everybody. She's already got the video, even though I haven't made it. Sally again. Also, when you cooperate by collaborating instead of opponent unprocessing. Oh, that's good. I'm going to steal that. You can build momentum together. Exactly. Collaboration is what builds momentum. Yeah. Yeah. Well spotted, Sally. Carl's got some momentum because he has built a team. Exactly. Right. The easiest way to understand Carl Benjamin and Tim Pool is they have momentum because they built teams. And so they've got way more momentum than any single person has. And so they're doing better. And good for them. I hope they do well. I wish I had met them in Philly. And I knew bad things were going to happen, and that scared me away. So even though I had the wherewithal back then to go and like try and like engage and meet them, I think that was maybe pre-fake news virus scam. I didn't do it. I kind of regret that. There were other things I didn't do too that I was like, damn. Also, I was in a bad state. Like I was taking care of mom, right? She had just passed away, cancer, long battle, that whole thing. So, I still should have gone. I wish I had gone. Maybe I could have had momentum with them or something. I don't know. Yeah, building the momentum takes a long time. But once you have it, yeah, like good things happen left, right, and center. So I've got some cooperation going on around a patent and around a business. So if those two cooperations work, then I can afford all these things I want to do potentially. But we'll see. We'll see. First, I got to get out of debt. Yeah, it's hard to understand. I got to do momentum. I'm just struggling too with momentum hierarchy. Can I talk about momentum before I talk about hierarchy, or is that going to cause me a problem? And I just got to sit down and like think about it. And I've just been too sick. But possibly this week, and then I got to do a bunch of videos because we're going to be on the road for like 3 weeks. So like 3 weeks and a day or something. It's going to be a long trip, and I'll try to have videos released, and there won't be a book club, right? So
yeah. Oh yeah, so much time coming back. Well, have you done something on nonlinear scaling? Because I feel like if you did momentum, nonlinear scaling, and then hierarchy, you could probably build up to it.
What I was toying with was just substituting scaling for hierarchy because the two are eminently related. But I thought about that today and I was like, that will work. But that doesn't mean it'll work because it's my early thought. And I really do need to like sit and think about these things. And, I also need to dig through my file here and say, what are the videos I said I would make that I haven't made? So that's, that's all important. Sally Joe, Pirate Captain Mark, more virtuous than Yacht Mark. All the man upstairs planned for your rarefication. Fair. Nope, still can't spell. Doom. Doom is not spelling. It's a great game. There's a video I was watching called Learning Computer Science or Learning to or Understanding the Doom source code is better than a computer science course. It's like, yes, that is true. The way we used to code in the old days and learning those principles is far better. Rah, rah, go, go. Sally Joe, the process to refine a thing. Yeah, rarefication, right. What was the word that we were using in the book club a few weeks ago?
There's refinement. There's another.
Yeah, I guess it was just refinement.
Because there's vulgarization is to give something more body.
Right.
And then
that's not necessarily refinement.
There's elevation. It's another one we were talking about.
Well, vulgarization, that will give you more body, which will add momentum automatically. Yeah, when you increase the body, you increase the momentum.
Yeah.
Even in physics, like this is why I'm always confused. I'm like, how do people not know this? It's everywhere. Like it's not like science disagrees. Like science proves it. Why are the scientists confused about basic physics, the high school physics? It's It's not like I went to college. How are they confused and they went to college? Like, I don't. Why are you having this problem? Your own discipline would tell you. I don't. Yeah, I just don't understand. Always confused by that. I'm like, guys, like, this is your work. Like, why don't you understand your work?
I wonder if it has something to do with
here. Ixnan's got it. Reification. Yeah.
I wonder if it has something to do with like the combination between having a ton of people doing something and then also individualism. So it's just you wind up having thing where it's like, oh, everyone has to have their own dissertation or their own thesis on some sort of thing.
That's really good. So that makes me think of we've outsourced our intimacy up into institutions. Right. And so the intimacy of science is in institutions. And then that crumbled, right? And Peterson again pointed that out. Right? He poked at that story and found out it's false. Or it poked at him, however you want to look at it. And then and then the flattening of the world is government getting involved in is it government? Yeah, a government getting involved directly in education. And that right through the bill C-16. Is it C-16? I think it's C-16. Right? And it's like, oh, right. And then that corrupts the institution because government gets involved and then that destroys the world, right? Because we're flattening the world and everything has the same rules, right? Government has these rules, so the college has to have these rules. It's like, no. It's not. Those Ivy Tower people need to have their own rules. I'm going to do a video on that too. Yeah, I think that video I can do. So that video I will do. That was the other thing. That was I realized. Oh wait, I already know this. I knew this. Why did I forget? I forgot a lot of things when the whole disaster with my mother hit. Right, because that's what happens. You have a collapse. Sally Joe, who has opinions on unicorns, ignore Sally. The artists are terrible. Notice DRP, Dr. Peterson. Okay. Hardly talks about them. Right. Like the opposite of dragons and nothing. Opposites are no good. Ixnon, Sally Joe, my daughter, has opinions on unicorns. Yes. Talk to his daughter. Authority, ownership, and responsibility all delegated to above exemplary leaders. Well, they're delegated to authority, right? Because they're misunderstanding hierarchy. And they think hierarchy has to do with top-down power from above because they're all postmodern retards, for lack of a better term. They're slow. They just don't understand how things work because they're a little slow. And they're not understanding how things are connected, which is why they can't. Your science has this answer and you don't make the connection for whatever reason. But that's the loss of the poetic way of informing the world. See the knowledge engine model. Sally Joe, crime to be the one responsible, diffusion of authority. Well, it is a crime to be responsible, Sally, because as I pointed out in my video games, our evil video, the boss is the bad guy. The boss is the bad guy. The boss is also the responsible party. Bosses are bad. No one wants to be the boss. That's the bad guy. You defeat the boss. That's what you do. And then when you defeat the boss, you become better than the boss, but you're not in charge of anything. It's fantastic. No responsibility, but you're at the top because you've gone up the levels. Just like in Game of Death, the Bruce Lee movie, which is the one that he died during, unfortunately. So there's like 3 or 4 versions of the movie. And they're terrible. I mean, all Bruce Lee movies are the best movie ever, but terrible. The most terrible of the best movies ever. And people don't they don't know that.
I'm trying to find a particular diagram from Language of Creation because I'm realizing that it's just upside down mediation.
Yes. Loss of respecting the unicorn, says that. Don't listen to that. It's crazy. She's on this unicorn kick. It's like,
that you have. Okay, so this will kind of have to do. The labels don't necessarily. Well, they do, but so you've just got the hierarchy and then like the up and down arrows and everything. but
Yep.
it's like, no, you are here, right? And
Yes.
like, this is the hero that solved the problem and beat the boss and has no responsibility, right?
Yep.
And you got the universal basic income material coming down, right?
Yep.
And then you've got the self naming and all of that going up. So it's like, oh, I send up my ideals, and then the top down power from above comes down to me, and then I don't have to take responsibility to anything because I'm alone down here.
Right.
And yeah, and
Right.
it's just like, well, it makes for a decent role playing game if you're doing that in between your,
Well spotted.
playing. Because I realized I was like, you know what, like that's basically Skyrim. Like like
Oh.
the Elder Scrolls game. It's like
Mm.
it's not explicitly there, but I was realizing this because they just came out with Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, and I was like, oh, I'll probably pick that up as it's the preceding game. I'll pick that up later in the year or something like that. But I'll just as like a kind of switch my brain off type of thing. But I realized I was like, oh yeah, this you go around and it's just like you just wind up amassing a bunch of you amass a bunch of houses and stuff like that that you don't really do anything with or any of these things. And you just kind of explore the story. And that one's interesting because you're not actually the, sole hero of the realm and everything. You're actually supposed to help a guy that's supposed to actually solve the problem, which is not what happens in the sequel. But you have the whole thing where it's just like, okay, I'm going to sort of exploit my way to everything that I want, and then just kind of get all of those things, and then the other people are going to just kind of they're gonna into the Spider Verse like justify me, and it's just like, oh, everybody's clapping and oh wow, yeah, hey, there he is, and everything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like that's pretty much that whole thing. It's just like, yeah, I think that's I mean, you've talked about this. A lot, especially in the video you reference, where it's like people are playing life like a video game, but that's exactly what's going on there. It's actually just it's not even anything unique. Like it's not a whole new system of
Right.
mediation. It's actually just doing it upside down, and then someone's doing proper mediation, and then
Right.
it's like, oh, they're this guy's backwards. They say while hanging
Right.
upside down.
Well, and they see the pattern intact, and they don't know that it's upside down because they can't tell.
Yeah,
because they're not grounded, and so they go with it because why not? And see, Ixnon 100% agrees. Yeah, I didn't see that. That was clever of you to flip that particular diagram. That diagram is the one that I'm like, oh no, this is missing one component. And you had that one component. It's like, oh wow, yeah, you can just add authority and identity to it. It's like, right. And then it's like, oh, that diagram makes more sense, but it's too busy.
Yeah,
if
there's
you
a
do
lot going
that.
on.
Yeah, it's way too busy if you do that. Yeah, it's a good spot, really. It's good of you to spot that particular way of thinking about it. I think that's super important. And in what it's things like that that destroy the intimacy. And I think that's why they keep saying reciprocal, right? Because with reciprocal, you get back well, I affect you and you affect me, and therefore we're of equal power. It's like, oh my goodness, no. No, you're not. This is why Arc is cringe, because you're not at the layer of the hierarchy where you can do that. But you have momentum. You're just using it to go up, and you don't have enough to go up, and maybe you shouldn't. And what you're trying to do is already wrong. And the fact that other people are doing it doesn't mean you can do it as well. And maybe what they're doing is harmless because of where they started. And maybe when you do it because you're starting lower, it's harmful. And like all of that is lost on people who don't understand hierarchy. And like I said, like you're commenting on the Catholic Church and you don't understand hierarchy. Shut your mouth. Like seriously, just close your mouth. You're not ever going to see any of this correctly. I'm sorry. Right? Until you understand hierarchy. And maybe you can't, which is okay. We have places for you. All right. Oh no, I don't want to be put in my place. We can protect you from the flood. Or you can get flooded out. Like I'm on the ark. Guys, if you don't want to help up, if you don't want to get on the ark, don't get on the ark. I can't force you. I can only invite you. That's it. I can meet you halfway, bro. You got to walk on, or be plucked out of the water. But I'm not able to like stop and grab wriggling people out of the water is somebody posted some stupid Plato's Cave thing on Twitter.
Oh no.
Probably sent me into a freaking apoplectic fit. So I had to straighten him out and said, yeah, that's not what Plato's saying at all. Don't do this. Right. I knew I shouldn't read that book. I knew I was going to be angry.
Yeah.
Every day since I read that book, I've been angry. Every day.
But it's interesting about the thing about plucking people out of the water, because there's actually a story that I heard recently. So there was a guy that it was this monk that was on the Amazon River. So they had a little barge that was going down the Amazon, and these guys are all missionaries and everything. And he something happened where he fell overboard, and it was like at night. So it's like, oh, you just fell overboard in the Amazon at night, like bye. But the people that were on there with him said, oh, we got to look back. And he was like, look, I'm going to oblige you and like do this, but we're not going to find him. Like, just, it's not going to happen. So they go and they pass over. And now what they don't know, because again, it's dark, and even with the lights that they have, what they don't know is that this guy was floating, and he did manage to float, and he was staying afloat. And then they drove over him. He didn't get any injuries or anything like that, but they drove the boat over him. And then I guess he probably like pushed it. He didn't get scraped by the propeller or any of that. And then they came back and they drove over him again. I think it happened at least 2 times. It might have been as many as 3 times. And then they finally someone noticed him. But he was so tired from floating for so long, because the whole ordeal was a very long time. They did manage to get him, and he was fine. And he was just very tired, from just kind of managing in the river there for a while, But also, like the river's moving, right? So it's like, well, he's not going to be in the exact spot, assuming you could use landmarks at night with spotlights and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, so they wound up just running him over a few times. He might have gotten a couple of little bruises or something, because it's, not a small barge. But yeah, I mean, they found him. He's fine now and everything. But it's an interesting thing. Even if they want to get you, just the fact that they're going to do that, they're even looking for you, they might not be able to see you because they have to look that low. And then also, it's like you have to really call out. And even if you are, like, maybe they can't hear you over the engine. And then you got the momentum aspect of it. It's just like, well, maybe they do see you, but now they have to turn around. And, you got to hope that, like, piranhas or an alligator doesn't get you first, on the Amazon.
Crocodiles.
Yeah.
Alligators, who cares? Crocodiles, that's some serious ass stuff right there. Crocodiles are nasty.
Plus, they got snakes, and they got those weird spiders that swim.
Everything will kill you. It's not Australia where actually everything kills you, but it's close.
Yeah, I think there's something like I want to say somewhere in that region, it's something like, because, the Pareto principle and everything, but it's something like 90% of all biodiversity is like in that region or something like that. It's just like, it's completely nuts. So even if the crocodiles and the piranhas and all that other stuff gets you, it'll be some sort of amoeba or something like that you accidentally swallow while you're trying to float there. It's just like, it's real. I mean, it's great that he's fine, right? But that's the point. It's like, that was nothing short of a miracle, and it's tough because, he didn't have control over what time of day is it and all these other things. Like, you don't know when you fall overboard or, when you need people to scoop you up.
Ixnay, maybe Ahab could have helped the Rachel if he'd tried. That's an interesting, maybe that was the sin. I don't know. Or that was his last opportunity to repent, was helping the Rachel.
Although he said maybe he couldn't have. Although I agree, maybe he should have, but maybe he wouldn't have been useful.
Oh yeah, he said couldn't. It doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, it would have been better for him if he had done it, even if it was a failure, probably.
Exactly. That's what I meant. Yeah. Success, failure is irrelevant, but doing that might have.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? Like, that might have enabled him to get the whale.
Right. Yeah, you would have had another boat that could have could have helped. Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know when you change the board that much, you don't know what's going to happen. I think that's really the problem when you don't have the proper, and this is really the problem of enchantment. The intimacy crisis is caused by lack of enchantment, ultimately. Lack of enchantment is caused by the lack of poetic way of informing the world. See the knowledge engine model on navigating patterns. And that explains the whole thing. And it's that simple. It's that easy. It's that straightforward. It's really no more difficult. It doesn't have to be. Right now, you're going to have to get out of the Joseph Campbell version of the world. And I'll do that video someday. I really want to use AI to explore. Like AI couldn't find Gerard at all. I'm like, oh, I was so frustrated because it's been really good, but it can't do that. And I'm like, why can't you see this? And now I'm like, I got to go listen to this again and see if I'm right, because I don't know. I mean, I could have imagined it. I'm always questioning myself. That's no one believes me, but it happens. So I don't know. I'm pretty tired, Castle. I want to wrap it up. What do you think? You got some parting shots on intimacy, meaning, and relation for us, and then I'll go and I'll close things down because nobody else loves us.
That's fine. I'm used to it. That I was thinking about this recently, and I've seen this a lot, and I'm not going to call anybody out, right? But I have seen many people who do the science thing. They are not themselves scientists per se, although generally they're kind of in academic circles, and they are sciencing their picking things apart and whatnot. And you do that for a long enough time, and you don't have like a low entropy reservoir to go to,
right.
To use materialistic terms. Like if all you're doing is separating and removing enchantment, you're disenchanting things all day long, and then you wind up losing that intimacy with the thing. And maybe it's more like a familiarity or an ability to control this thing that seems to be motivating the relationship. And because it's reliable, okay, yeah, when I do this, it does this, and I can go back to these principles, and then I can come back. And you wind up needing an outlet for the enchantment that you removed, and you wind up going to some pretty weird places a lot of times. And that kind of comes back to the like, oh, now we need to go and because things have become so familiar and controllable, there's a desire for novelty or to come up with some new discovery or something like that. And especially if you make a living based on this, a lot of times there's a sort of drive to, well, if I already did all the work, then what's going to justify my participation now? If I'm not coming up with something new. And then you wind up being emergence is good. And that is extremely dangerous. And I'm seeing a lot of this among people who seemed to not be going astray even recently and had been kind of in the game in their respective fields doing very well for a few decades. And now that things are kind of unraveling in a certain sense, they're very much getting caught up in that. And it actually kind of makes me wonder how long that's actually been happening. Because it may be that I just haven't been paying attention.
Right.
But
no, that's good. Yeah, I mean, there's a momentum to the flattening of the world, and there's a momentum to what Peterson did. Like, he smashed this story. And so I did talk somewhat about that on the live stream. That I did earlier today, that I posted earlier in the live chat. There's a momentum to that hasn't played out. And there's a momentum to the virtues and values of the flat world that was inherited as the result of the myth of World War II. And so the end of that myth, because that's a problem, but it's not the problem. It means that intimacy, meaning, and relation are not returning to us anytime soon, even though the myth is ending. And that's because people aren't going far enough back. They're not doing proper problem formulation. They're not like, we're light years away. And that's a bigger issue. So the intimacy, meaning, relation problem is something that has to be understood in order to get to the bottom of the poetic way of informing the world, right? Which can only be addressed through participation, and not random participation, which is what random practices a la John Vervaeke would do. That's why we took our time and made better practices. And now we have them, or at least some of them. And oh yeah, I fixed the game. So I figured out how to fix the game. So that's fixed. I mean, there's more work that needs to be done on that document. If anybody would like to help, let me know. It's on the Market Wisdom Discord server. You can get to it there. Feel free to comment, blah, blah, blah. Most of it's, I think it's all done. Like, I think it's all done. I have to sit down with it. I've been sick all week. So I came up with one little thing, added one little sentence that fixes the problem. And now I got to go back and revisit everything. But it's nicely formatted. AI helped us. Things like that. You know, and I'd have 1 billion of them published tomorrow if I could. Man, if I had any money at all, that game would be like in people's hands. It is a I must say, I did a brilliant job on that. That in the book, we done good. We done really good. If I had the resources, yeah. If I had enough money, I would just start sending those books out to everyone too. Like, no, you need to pay for this. Just do it, right? Although that's always the wrong approach. You can give things out for free. But if money is a blockade to your goal, it's a bad goal, or you'll interact with it badly because you don't have the proper intimacy with the goal to be able to co-manifest the meaning through proper relation. And that, I think, is the summary. Like, that's the actual summary of the live stream right there. That's why these 3 things are important, because they're one more step to getting you to proper problem formulation. And the proper problem formulation is closer to, we need to re-enchant the world by re-engaging people with the proper way of poetically informing the world so that they can find their place in the world and rid themselves of domicide by properly participating in the hierarchy that they were born into. It's not an optional thing. It was already here, right? You're just opponent processing it all the time, which is destroying it or trying to destroy it. It won't work. And so you end up flipping it instead. But look, I don't know what the topic's going to be next week, but I want everybody to have a good week, right? And the reason for that, and the reason why I'm doing these videos is because, as I have told people before, the world needs you to be better. So take care of yourself, take care of everybody around you to the best of your ability. Have a hierarchy or order of duties, all right? Love is universal. And then you can, like, JD Vance will be okay if the Pope fights with him. I promise. No contest. We know who's higher. It's not that hard. And like, think about this. Think about your relationship in the world. And by thinking about your relationship, maybe you can properly order your relations and sort of poetically engage with them, including reading poetry. And that will revivify your meaning by giving you that quality relationship, intimacy with the world. Have a great week, everybody.